Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the third day of September 2024. Welcome to our show today. We're starting out first with John Tater and Lawful Defense, and then we're going to Curtis Clark is going to be on. He's running for office within the U.S. Taxpayers Party, the Constitution Party, so he's going to be on at 10. And 11 o'clock, it's Jalise with J6ers, political prisoners in America with Jalise Middleton, and she's got Suzanne Monk on today with another project that's going on, which is Project Pardon. And I think that what this is all about is getting this J6ers pardoned for the crimes they didn't commit that they're being charged with. Anyhow, bring on John here, and we're going to get right at this because we got a lot to talk about today. Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real well.
What's happening in John world?
Oh, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah?
You know, I just got a mailer in the mail. And I don't know how many people are getting this, but would you hire anybody that was wearing a mask?
Not as a leader, because that looks like a coward to me.
They're cowards, and they're hiding themselves. They're hiding their face. This is by the Michigan Democratic Party. They're sending this stuff from house to house.
That's an expensive little mailer there.
Yeah, well, it's much bigger than this, but I don't need to open it up. This says it all right here. You got 4 masked men or women trying to be your leaders. Actually, not leaders, but representatives. They're not leaders, because if they're leaders, then we're sheep, and I'm not a sheep. They're supposed to be representatives. That's what we hire, representatives. Even the president is supposed to be representing us. But we have 4 people hiding their face with a mask. I thought COVID was over with.
Well, I don't know. See, this is something that happened with my mom in the hospital last week, because I don't know if I told you this or not, but my mom passed away on Wednesday.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. So at any rate, as soon as she got in there, they tested her and she was testing positive for COVID. Like 3 days later, they tested negative, and they were going to give her remdesivir when I came to the hospital. And I said, no, she's not going to get remdesivir, because first of all, I'm not buying this crap. Well, they transferred her out of isolation within like a few days, like 3 or 4 days, they transferred her out. So I'm sorry, but I'm not buying any of this crap. But she was not in good shape, and it was, unfortunately, but they take advantage. I believe they take advantage of that sort of thing.
Did she have the flu?
I don't.
Or some symptoms of the flu?
She had a cough. So, but yeah. But I think, she got herself so tired. She had gone out, and she was kind of a party animal. She liked to go to picnics and gatherings and that sort of thing. She went out to a gathering and got herself too tired out. And quite honestly, she just couldn't get back on top of it after that. So, but it was like, she was older, and she just wasn't going to stop. So she lived her life the way she wanted. And it's just like when people smoke, they tell people who are in their 80s, stop smoking. I'm not a smoker. I've never smoked, but they tell people in their 80s to stop smoking. And I'm always like, why? They're living their life the way that they want to. And they've been smoking for 70 years or something like that. And they're going to stop now. That's ridiculous, but I don't know.
Going back to the poster that was sent out.
Yeah.
We will build back better. They had 3.5 years to build back better.
Yeah. What are they going to build?
How many more years do they need to build back better?
They're there. Why didn't they do anything as they're in office? She's saying that now. It's like, vote for me and we'll be in better shape than we are now. Honey, you could have done something now, and they've chosen to do nothing. So it's just a headline lie. But back to what I was going to tell you in the hospital. So I got in a little bit of a tussle with the nurses up there, because they're like, you leave that room, you got to wear a mask. And this woman came up to me. She never said one word to me. She came up to me in her best Nazi-esque way, and she walked up to me. She said, you get a mask on or I'm calling security and having you removed. That's what she said. And I looked at her and I said, is that the way that we talk to people when they're losing a loved one? She didn't say hi. She didn't say kiss my rear end. She didn't say nothing. She came right up to me. She said, you get that mask on or I'm going to have security remove you. I was like, really? And then I caught her in a lie, so I kind of went after her with.
Did you get her name?
Oh yeah, I did.
Well,
I got all their names.
That's what you got to do. You got to get their names, and then you got to write a letter to the hospital administration about this person and her abuse of clients and or patients that are in the hospital.
Yeah, they take advantage of you. They try to take advantage of you when they think you're at your weakness. The problem is that I don't get into weakness. I hate to say that. They come after me. I don't care if my mom's dying. I'm going to turn around and let them have it. Yeah. It's like, doesn't matter. And I did. And their behavior improved markedly. It was a marked improvement in their behavior after that. So there you go. But anyhow, I digress. John Hawk said, "I like your shirt, John." It's like,
well, thank you, John.
Yeah, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. I like that.
Yeah, we have to put that information out there because we have been without knowledge for a long time. People in this society have not studied, have not learned what it is and what we have to do to keep our republic. And now we are in a quagmire with a bunch of bandits that wear masks and think that they're going to raise their power and take control of the world, and that's what they're trying to do anyway.
Well, next week I'm gonna show everybody this card because I think this is amazing. I got one card in, and we're gonna talk about the lawsuit next week. But this is my card, response card for, let's see, Gretchen Whitmer right there. So I got one card of notice back, and I've got 3 more to go. And when we do that next week, we'll be able to talk about the lawsuit. And I've got another one that I signed on with United Sovereign Americans, and I'm a plaintiff on that one also. So I've got about 4 lawsuits out there right now that we're chewing on, and I've got one more that's going to be filed very shortly, and that I signed on to, and then I've got a couple of them we're working on that are other pro se lawsuits. And so if anybody out there wants to help me with this, because it's quite a lot of work doing these pro se suits and these other things, plus BNN, plus the other stuff. And I think that some extra help would be good. And then the other thing is that I've got all those resolutions I've been working on for the U.S. Taxpayers Party, for the Constitution Party here in Michigan. And I think it would be great if I had some people that would like to get on a Zoom or do something like that so that we can add some law into it and tighten those up a little bit. I have to have those done by the 14th. So if you want to get a hold of me and be part of this, here is my phone number is area code 616-430-4410. Text me and say you want to be involved in this. And then, I'm not going to have a lot of people. I'm not going to allow a lot of people because it's just going to be just dying committee when we do that. But if there are people that really sincerely want to work on this, give me a text and I'll add you to the list. So when we do that, you could help smooth the rough edges out and make these a little bit stronger so that we can get them out there and send those to our public functionaries and instruct them on what we want them to do. So anyhow.
We have criminals in Washington, as everybody knows. In the future, you do not title your documents as being in pro se, do you?
No, I don't think you use the word in that.
But pro se, you don't do that. Do it in jure proprio.
Jure proprio?
Yeah, and that means standing on your own right. In pro se is not necessarily a benefit to you because they look at that as being not overly bright. You're just a kind of a slave kind of situation. And when you and I talk together, that's one thing. But when you go to court, you want to be sure you're in jure proprio.
How do you spell proprio?
P-R-O-P-R-I-O.
Okay, I got that right. All right.
In jure proprio meaning standing on your own right.
Okay.
And that puts you in a different light. Again, it's all about language, and language in the courts. they use the language against us. And so they in pro se is used against us. And there's several other things that other patriots use, but they're not good.
Well, that's good to know. And I mean, this is one of those things. It's the first time that I've done this. So I just decided I'm going to get it figured out, and I'm going to probably make some mistakes along the way. But like anything we do in life, if we wait until everything is perfect, you'll never do anything.
No,
and if you're afraid to make if you're afraid to make mistakes, you will absolutely never do anything. You've got to jump in, and if you make mistakes, you go back and you figure it out, and you get smarter every time, and you educate yourself.
And you get them to open their mouth and show how dumb they really are, because those people in Lansing and Washington are really stupid.
Yeah.
They think we are the stupid ones. They are really the stupid ones.
Did you see, I think I might have just closed this out, but did you see there was yeah, I did close it out. Let me find it a minute. A video that Benson put out, and she was saying if you don't certify the election system to all the election workers in the state, we're coming for you.
Let her come. Come on. I should be in that position. I would love to fight that one.
I would think it'd be great, because see, the deal is that when you read the law, because we actually got I've got a little group of us, we got together, and they have written into the law things that have plausible deniability, or not plausible deniability, but things that actually give them a loophole to, in fact, play some legal games to go after people who don't certify without questioning. They really have.
Who wrote the law?
What's that?
Who wrote the law?
Well, that's still up to it would have to have been the legislature, but I don't really know, because there are some things in there that are highly questionable. And I think that the main thing is you just got to go back a little further, and you can nullify pretty much everything that they've done. So it's the new stuff that they've thrown in there that has been in an effort to hide what they're doing, but it gets them in the end.
Well, my point is that legislature didn't write the law. She probably wrote that or added to whatever was on the books already. Who wrote the law? Where does it show that the legislature passed this law?
Well, we'll have to.
That happened.
What we did find out is that going through that part of the code, that honestly, there's some criminal conspiracy, I think, that can be proven in that area, which, as we peel back the layers of what they've done and what they're doing, we're going to be able to, first of all, know how it's supposed to work. That's the first thing, is we need to know what we're talking about and how it's supposed to work. Then we can go after them and hold them accountable, because they're doing everything wrong. I mean, when we looked at the certification process, the way that it is written in the code, there is no certification process. The only one that has any liability, honestly, is the election inspector, and that is pretty minimal. And as soon as it leaves their hands and they sign off, there's absolutely no accountability. There is no certification, as we understand it, for accuracy. The word does not mean accurate. It just means they stamp their approval on it, and nobody's liable. Nobody's held accountable, because there's no accountability written into the law.
Well, my question is, who is responsible for elections?
Supposed to be the county.
No.
Well, we the people
ultimate
are.
Responsibility for the election is the legislature.
Okay.
It's the legislature. They're the public. They're the political arm of the government. And and what case tells you that? Pacific States versus Oregon. So you got to know that, because do they have that power now? If you go to Article 3, and I didn't want to jump this, but you jumped the gun here. Article 3, Section 2 of the state constitution says the powers of government are divided into three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. No person exercising power of one branch shall exercise the power belonging to the authority belonging to the other branch, except as expressed provided by the Constitution. So if the executive branch is writing law, they are violating Article 3, Section 2 of the state constitution. And I suspect that Benson and what's her face, the other one,
Whitmer and Nessel.
Whitmer, well, Whitmer too. Whitmer's executive branch too. But all three of those witches are part of the executive branch. They have no authority to write law, but anyway, that's the legislature. So if it isn't coming from the legislature, all their duty is to carry out the law, not to write the law. They can enforce the law, but the law has to come out of the legislative branch. And I'm betting my pretty much dollar on this, that the legislative branch did not write this law that they're pushing forward about not if you go against the election information. So it's an illegal act to begin with.
Yeah.
How you can do that is if she's got the law in her hands, it should have at the bottom how that law was passed, where it was passed, what it was passed, how many people voted for it, or how many legislatures voted. It should give that information. Where did that law come from? That's the history of the law itself. And in the Constitution, it gives that in the state Constitution, it gives that information. When was the law passed? And who passed?
I'm going to tell you what, you could work on this thing. You know, you could work on this, any one part of it, full time.
You're freezing.
Started cutting up here a little bit. Sorry.
Then I guess I'm going to freeze up pretty soon. We must be saying things that are upsetting the deep state.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so.
So I wanted to.
That's all right. We're just going to keep hammering away on them, and I hope we're making a few people really angry. Hey, I got something else I want to throw out there a minute. I talked to someone, and they were telling me that there was a meeting. They've got kind of a whistleblower, but that there was a meeting out there, and that there were several people that admitted to rigging the election in Michigan, and they said, if anybody talks about it, we will deal with you. So there's some admission, and there's people that know what's going on out there. Good. It's just a matter of time. They can hide this stuff forever.
Those people that know that information should be passing it out as fast as they can in any way.
I feel the same way.
Because
I feel the same way. If they hold it in
to you and they eliminate you one way or the other, either throw you in jail or assassinate you, then that information doesn't get out. So lots of these people that have this information and are holding it close to their vest for maybe they want to make a big splash or something. That's not the way to do it. Get that information out as fast as you can.
They were inferring taking care of someone as in assassination or eliminating them. That's what was inferred in this conversation. It wasn't just, we're going to take them out for cookies and explain things to them. It's like, if anybody says anything, there will be no more. So once again, we have a lot of threat and coercion going on in the state of Michigan. This is a real tough arena. I don't really think that a lot of people have their arms quite around this thing yet, and how criminal these people really are. It's you're dealing with an organized crime syndicate, and it's a global one too.
That's right.
The head of the snake, just so everybody knows, is as far as in Michigan, is Grand Rapids. It's not Lansing. It's not Detroit. It's Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is the head of the snake here. No two ways about it, because this is where the money is. Mm-hmm. So kind of an interesting thing. And then I did post some things, because there's still puppets. When you go to the people that are acting in the state of Michigan, the oligarch families, they're still puppets, because you can go up, further and further. And, we hear a lot of things about the Rothschilds and the the Rockefellers and such, but it goes up another layer. And the other layer is, honestly, it's the Orsini family, Pallavicini family. They're the ones that are the black nobility that came out of Venice. And the ones underneath them, the ones that you see, are the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. But the Rothschilds is bank, the Rockefellers was industry. There's several more of men there. And then you get down another layer or so, and you get into the oligarch families. And then underneath that, you'll have the Flackies that are inside of, say, BlackRock and the economic warfare, because this is what they've always done. It's always been economic warfare. It's always been for money and power. And you'll watch them. They fight over land and women. Those are the two things that they fight over the most, which is why Sharia is so dangerous. Sharia is about domination of women. And anybody that is beating women, I posted a video earlier. Let me throw this up here. You beat a woman, you're nothing but a coward. That's all it is. I think we should just like throw a coward, throw something up that show these people are nothing more than cowards. This is what, if you believe in Sharia law and you vote Democrat and or whatever that brings these asshats in, and that's what they are. It's a military move that's parading as a religion. You bring this shit in here, and this is what you're going to get. And it's going to be what? Directly from how you vote. And of course, they froze my computer up. Let's try that again. Worthless pukes. That's all I can say. Completely worthless pukes. But I think that this is something that we have to talk about, because people are not getting the reality of what's happening. We've got gang members in that behead people, and they cut faces off. They do these terrible things. Sharia law, they do genital mutilation. They throw people off of buildings, and they do crap like this. This woman did not live, to my knowledge. I don't believe she
that
did.
A Middle Eastern
that was what was
video
reported.
Or local?
Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry, but this is satanic. I don't care what anybody says, that it's an honor killing or whatever. That is satanic. You hurt another human being. That's crimes against humanity. And every single one of these bastards needs to be prosecuted. You can't live. This cannot coexist with a peaceful society.
That's right.
It's all that is all there is to it. This is satanic, and it is, under the name of a religion, and they use it as an excuse. Just like there's abuse that happens under many religions out there, but it's not. It's infiltrated, and I don't know. I don't believe we can cohabitate. I really don't. You can't have darkness and light living together like that, and that is just evil.
I agree, 100%.
And they marry these little kids. Let's just throw this out there. When they marry these little kids, you're a pedophile. That's all it is. When they marry these 3 to 6 year old little girls, a lot of them die. They marry them and they say that's okay. They're pedophiles. They're sick. That's not a religion. That's sickness, and it's a blasphemy against God. It needs to be eradicated off the planet. So, anyhow, I digress. So,
well, we have to have our battles here. First one. I've heard a lot of people that say, hey, I'm leaving America because it's a bad place and the world is coming and I'm going to go to South America or wherever. And I said, hey, this is the battleground right here. If you don't fight them here, if America falls, they'll be after you in South America eventually.
Well, they're going to go to South America, and it's going to be worse. It's like the grass is always greener situation. America isn't perfect. We've got problems here. but we can solve those problems if we work together and we call God into the situation. It's the only way it's going to fix it. You run away, you're going to get into worse.
That's right. By the way, we have the guns. So until they understand that and or take our guns away, which they're never going to do, they have no power over us, and that kind of power. Anyway, we are the strongest, and this is where the battleground is, right here in this state. Can't go to South America and have a gun, or any other country and have a gun. You got to have it here. This is the battleground, so people need to dig in their heels and stand. And the problem is they're a lot of people are cowards. A lot of people think that they have a story to tell, and they tell it on the internet or wherever and make a few bucks, but they don't know what they're talking about. 99% of them. So as I've told many people, the internet's a bathroom wall. You got to be able to discern what's right and what's wrong, and that's your responsibility. Because if you expect the bathroom wall to tell you what to do, you know what that's all about. Anyway, I think we need to go back to to the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. And we're going to go backwards a little bit, because this is in regards to Jack Smith, Mr. Master Criminal of the universe. He has violated the laws of the courts and said, "Oh, I don't care what the courts say. I'm going to find another way." The fact that they indicted Trump twice earlier on and tried to impeach him violated the Constitution. We're going to go over those violations. The problem is the American people in general don't read the Constitution and don't know. And therefore, they think that this nonsense that's going on with this criminal government, all wearing masks, is a good thing. Or they even could possibly consider voting for these criminals.
Well, they got to get what their ultimate goal is, to get rid of God. Because if they get rid of God in their own sick minds, they can be God and do whatever they want.
Right, that's right. People turn to government for the answer, not to God. I agree with you. Okay, the power not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. Powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, such as a special counsel. It's not delegated in the Constitution anywhere. Even the special counsel that Nixon had, that wasn't delegated to the Constitution. Those guys don't exist. They never did. And of course, Jack Smith, according to Eileen Cannon, doesn't exist, Judge Cannon. But the problem is she didn't carry it far enough to wipe them out, because the Justice Department doesn't exist. Remember, the Justice Department was made up by Grant, General Grant, when he was President Grant, when after the Civil War time, he did it by an act. You can't do it by an act. There's no authority for it. The Justice Department, the DOJ, does not exist. And we can bring in Norton versus Shelby County. And I keep saying that 100,000 times. Norton versus Shelby County says you cannot create a de facto office. So the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. It's as clear as it can be. I don't know how much more clear you can make it. Jack Smith doesn't exist. He's a fake. Nor prohibited to it by the states are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. So if it's not prohibited by the federal Constitution to the states, then it is reserved for the states. The states have those rights, or to the people. The people have all of the rights. So let's go on to the 9th Amendment. And the 9th Amendment is pretty clear too. The enumerations in the Constitution of certain rights, and we're talking about the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. We have all kinds of rights. Even though they're not spelled out in the first 10 amendments, we have rights way beyond the first 10 amendments. The power belongs to the people. Remember, laws as written are not laws that are written against the people, because we are the authors of the law. And that's Downs versus Bidwell, which is another Supreme Court case, which says we have the power because we write the law. We are the sovereign, not the government and not the state of Michigan or not the counties. We, the people, have the power. Ninth Amendment tells us that. We have all kinds of rights. The federal Constitution has enumerated rights, which are spelled out. If they're not spelled out, they don't exist. We have all the rights. We got to remember that, and we have to respond and act that way. The federal government and the state government doesn't have any rights that we do not delegate to them. That's Norton versus Shelby County. That's Downs versus Bidwell. That's Scher versus Rhodes. There's tons of court cases out there that say that. So we have the power. We have the rights. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to the Eighth Amendment.
It's the amendment countdown.
Yeah, backwards. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Man, this smacks of everything that's going on with Trump right now.
Trump and the J6ers, the whole thing is.
And the J6ers, yes.
And not only that, the unlawful imprisonment of political prisoners all across the United States, because they are literally denying people of a speedy trial, and they're locking them up.
Yes.
And putting them in solitary confinement, which is torture. We have gotten to the position in the United States that our prison system needs to be completely overhauled, because human beings are being traded in their lives for money, for what they can get out, just like the hospitals and everything else. It is an absolutely disgrace to this nation. That's right. And we're violating the government, federal government and state government is violating the Eighth Amendment. As much as and they should be, that's their oath of office. They should be fought. We should have lawsuits against them for violating their oath of office. And Trump should be yelling the Eighth Amendment, because he's been excessive fines for what he was doing, and cruel and unusual punishment. They're thinking of putting him in jail. Unbelievable. Violation of the Eighth Amendment. Democrats, if you don't see this happening, you are stupid and blind as a bat. Well, you know what? I don't even want to go there with Democrats, because we've got Marxists. It makes it sound like the Republicans are honest. But you know what? Any of them could have helped out in this and stepped up for President Trump or the J6ers. They give it all lip service, but nobody's doing anything material to really fight this.
That's our legal system. That's the Department of Injustice. Absolutely. Yep. The hamster wheel of, what did she call it? The lady in our group, Janice. The hamster wheel of injustice, I think, is what she calls it.
Is it Janice Daniels? I love Janice. Yeah, she's cool. Janice is a very cool person.
So here's a violation of the Eighth Amendment in many directions on President Trump. Now, if they could go after President Trump, who has the power, had the power, then they can come after any one of you. And if you're not shaking in your boots over this, of these four bandits with their masks on, and you think that they're going to do you justice, build back better, they're going to build back jails better. Wake up, folks. Wake
And
up.
I tell you what, even on the local level, there is a raft of people that have lost their homes due to excessive fines.
Yes.
And as well, I mean, the state is criminal. And it goes right down to the local level. The local level is probably the worst because people don't take the time to fight there. And they don't really know what's going on. It doesn't make the headlines. The things that don't make the headlines are probably more important than the ones that do make the headlines. I know, I could go for some really big names on BNN. I know quite a few of those people, but I find that the most important work is to talk to people who are on the ground doing work, like you are, who can educate people. Sometimes the bigger fish isn't where our fight needs to be. It needs to be local, and it needs to be closer to home.
The fight could be actually anywhere, but it's my shirt saying it. Knowledge makes a man unable to be a slave.
Well, you fight wherever God calls you, but just fighting at the local level is a huge call because these people are also criminal.
But you got to know the laws, and you got to know that the laws stand for the people, not for the government. They're the limiting factor of government. They're not to be used against the American people. They're to be used against the government. This Constitution is the laws by which the government is supposed to be organized and operated. This is the railroad tracks by which our government is supposed to be running on. But they don't, because we, the people, have left them alone and not gone after them for violating their oath of office. And this is their oath of office. Eighth Amendment. All those people that are going after Trump are violating the Eighth Amendment and should be indicted themselves and sent to prison. And those people that are sitting on the grand jury that don't know this, that don't know the Constitution, that are not intelligent enough because they pick the dumbest people they can to sit on many of the grand juries, do not know the law, then we become the victims, we the people. And the grand jury should know that. The grand jury should know that if they're coming after somebody, it better be by law. Otherwise, they're going to come after them eventually.
True story.
Okay, let's go on to the 7th.
It's the amendment countdown.
In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of the trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact trial by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of common law. How about the double indictments or the double
70 indictments?
Yeah, well, those, but I was talking about the impeachments of trying to impeach Trump twice.
Yeah, when's it going to stop? It's not going to stop until these people are removed because they're crazy.
Yes. Shall not be tried, re-examined in a court of the United States. Re-examined. So they had the Supreme Court Justice Roberts said on the second indictment, he wasn't going to sit on the bench. So they just got some local yokel moron in the legislature to sit as the judicial system judge in the second indictment. What? Are you kidding me? First of all, Judge Roberts knew that was a fake second indictment, but they did it anyway. They violated the Seventh Amendment. So far, we've got them 100% violating from the Seventh Amendment to the 10th Amendment, each one of those amendments. And basically looking at President Trump as being a violation of his rights. If they've got to violate his rights, they're going to violate your rights. They can do that, and they'll continue to be nasty and criminal against everybody. All right, Sixth Amendment. in all crimes, prosecution,
in all criminal
in
prosecutions.
all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy trial. Really?
And public trial, well, the J6ers, they're violating that entirely because there is no speedy trial, as well as they're not public either. They're not allowing this to be really shown where people can see what they're doing.
That's right. And they're pulling the same stuff on Trump too, when they're saying, well, we're going to kind of we're going to kind of arrest him and put him in jail just before the election.
How about no cameras in the courtroom? That's a cute little trick.
That's right. Is it a public trial? That means everything goes. Cameras in the courtrooms, recordings, everything.
Yeah.
But of course, that's a violation of the Sixth Amendment. And our federal government and state government are violating the Sixth Amendment by an impartial jury of the state. Yeah, an impartial jury of all lefty Democratic people in Washington, in New York, is an impartial jury, right? Right? To indict Trump. And districts where the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with a witness against himself. And we're talking about those women that said what the heck was her name? I don't even remember.
Carol?
Yeah. That said I don't remember. I don't remember what I was wearing, nor what day it happened, nor any of that. I don't remember any of it, but he did.
All right. Can I make a statement here as a woman that I think this is just absurd?
Go ahead. Okay.
I would think that she would remember that. Most women can remember when their husband forgets their anniversary. Are you kidding me? Right? I mean, you forget your wife's anniversary, you're a dead man. That's all I'm going to say, because she's going to hold this against you from now until Christ comes back. And this Yahoo says, I don't remember when I was raped. Are you kidding me?
That's right.
That if anybody believes that nonsense, I can't help that kind of stupid.
That's good. That's good. Yep, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, this is great. I love pounding on the feminazi crap, because it's just crap. They're just a bunch of whiny little girls that want favor. It's the same thing as that Sharia law nonsense. It's a bunch of weak men that want to feel really powerful, that beat on a woman. Well, it can be said the other way. Weak women have to shove it down guys' throats.
That's right.
And everybody else. So that's where you just go to your little safe space, eat your little herbal tea, and shut the hell up, because none of the rest of us want to hear it. Okay, let's move on. To
have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Now, this word counsel does not say attorney.
I like it.
Bar counsel. Does not say bar attorney. It says counsel. So anybody could represent you in any court, especially in a federal court, because it's federal constitution, state constitution. They passed that nonsense in Michigan, where you have to be a bar attorney to practice in a court. But and that's in violation of the Sixth Amendment, actually, because the amendments of the state constitution is supposed to mirror the federal constitution, and it doesn't.
Not at all. And what? Okay, so let's go back. Let's go to that a minute, just for a second. How, besides nullification, the 1963 Michigan Constitution is really null and void. They didn't do it the correct way. How do you get it off the books?
Well, the rumor, and I don't know this for a fact, but the rumor has it that the Constitution is going to come up for review in a year or two, or next year. And that's when we should throw it out the window and start over again. Or certainly go through it and X out all of the provisions in there that are trying to control the state, the people of the state of Michigan. There are a lot of them. And get back to controlling the state of Michigan, which is what the state constitution was supposed to do, just like the federal Constitution is supposed to control the federal government. And that's what we'd have to do. We'd have to go through and we'd have to blow up the 63 Constitution and start over again.
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned because there's enough people out there that don't have the honor to actually write in it, because they bought into that satanic system too, and they just want power over people and or to vote themselves favors instead of doing it selflessly. But I digress.
Let's hope that this next 3-4 months turns the light on in a lot of people's brains.
I think, did you see that there's a couple of things, I'm gonna put this out there, that we're headed for a crash, a big one. So if you want to keep going, I'm going to go ahead and post these to my Telegram channel right now, because this should be sobering for everyone out there.
Yeah, it should be. It should be.
And people are just la-di-da-di-da, let's go play Parcheesi or something like that, instead of we're losing our country. It's this is crazy. But I digress. I'll find him in a minute. I'm on. It's one of those days, guys. Just one of those days. But anyhow, yeah, keep going, and I will absolutely post this as soon as I find it. So where else are we going with this?
We got to go to the 5th.
Okay, countdown.
Some important points too.
All right.
Actually, they all do, but the 5th Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. Now, were the J6ers had a grand jury? Did a grand jury indict them?
I don't believe that most of them have been properly indicted.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Except that
they're arraigned. They haven't been arraigned. They haven't been arraigned. And they have not had anything speedy, and a lot of them have served like 3.5 years, and some of them in solitary confinement for like 186 days. It's only supposed to be 2. After that, it's considered torture. Well, they're torturing Americans in our prisons, in the prisons in the gulag here.
I don't think they had a grand jury set up and put them in jail or indict them to begin with.
They just do what they want. They don't care, and people don't matter to these people. Sad.
Except in the case of military, I'm not going to, because the military's coming, but I'm not going to talk about that now. When in actual time of war, and shall be person subject. Okay, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life, liberty, or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Not what's the other one, famous words that they use, not witness against yourself, but I can't even think of it now.
I plead the 5th.
Yeah, when you plead the 5th, why do you plead the 5th?
Because you can't be compelled to testify against yourself.
No, that's not what they say.
Okay.
What do they say? What's the criminal? It'll come to me in a minute. All right. Be a witness against yourself is very important, because that's what this is all about. This is not to be to say that you are incriminate. And that's the words that they use, to incriminate yourself. It's not what it is. This is to be a witness against yourself, not incriminate yourself. You're not incriminating yourself when you plead the 5th. You don't want to be a witness against yourself. And it's important that we do the language properly. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
Self-incrimination from John Hawks. Thank you, John.
There it is. Thanks.
There it is. I knew somebody out there was going to rescue us. They always do. We got a smart audience out there.
Sometimes something slips my mind and I can't remember. All right, without due process of law, not structurally, but actually, what is the content? We're talking about content when we talk about due process of law. They use form all the time. They let you go to court, let you speak, but they never get to the content or to the substance of the law. that they use. And so due process of law is another area that the federal government and or state government, and I had it used against me in Westland with the McConnell. McConnell's going to pay for that. I'm suing that sucker sometime pretty soon, but I haven't got the lawsuit done yet. He's another judge. Once I get through with the federal judges, I'm going after him.
Man, I wish all of us could just go sit in a building somewhere and just write lawsuits full time. Is there any? Somebody told me you got to be careful how many lawsuits you file, even if they're just, because they will sanction you from the court. Is that true?
Well, they got to tell you they're going to sanction you if you file a lawsuit, but I've never had that happen to me. So at this point in time, frivolous lawsuits, which you don't have any substance to the lawsuit. Yeah, they can come back and sanction you and give you a hard time. But listen, who controls what? Who do the judges control?
Satan themselves, the bar.
The bar. They can sanction the bar. It's going to be pretty hard to sanction a civilian.
So it's kind of a different. So that's not accurate. It's in a different category.
Yeah, we're in a totally different ballpark here.
Okay.
But if you keep throwing junk you keep throwing crap on the wall and seeing what sticks, that's not good either. That's not going to help the system. You gotta. If you have a lawsuit, a legitimate lawsuit, you have the right to file it. And if you have 100 legitimate lawsuits, you have the right to file them, and they can't come after you for sanctions. So I wouldn't worry about that. Besides, they're going to have to tell you, if you file one more of these types of lawsuits, I'm going to sanction you. But that's a pretty, because Haynes versus Kerner says they're supposed to help you. So I don't know how they're going to get over that one. But anyway, moving on. Without due process of the law, nor shall be deprived of property, be taken for public use without just compensation. Here it says something very important. It says public use. There are a lot of businesses out there, corporations out there that try to take property for building, condominiums or whatever they're building.
Ooh,
and
I never connected that. That's huge.
Is that public use?
That's huge.
Yes, or is that private use?
Well, see, this is a fight I've had here in Byron Township for a while, because they keep wanting to encroach on your property in order to put in, say, like water lines or that sort of thing. I won't let them put them on my property, because I caught them in a lie. They said, we have to replace the old lines. I'm like, there's no old lines there, so don't lie to me. And so it's like, and they're doing it just so they can enable the developers, which should be illegal. Absolutely. This is so criminal. These people are horrible.
Yep. Public use. That's the very important point. You can't.
Boy, I'm glad we went over that today. That gives me another reason to let them have it. got another reason to let them have it right there.
That's right. All right, while we're at it, we're doing the fourth, although the Fourth Amendment is not the focus of what we were trying to do.
The amendment countdown.
So let's do the fourth. The right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizure.
So you could go down, what I'm going to do? I'm going to go down these amendments at some point in time and show exactly how these amendments were violated in the case of President Trump, each amendment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we could literally do a post by post on that, which would maybe be really helpful for people.
What happened in Mar-a-Lago?
Well, a violation of the Fourth Amendment, clearly.
Absolutely. They went in there, and not only did they not find what they were looking for, they made it up.
Yeah.
They made it up.
And this is a violation of those yahoos in Byron Township coming on my property without passing no trespassing signs. I mean, this is not just no trespassing. This is a constitutional a violation of the Constitution.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Unreasonable searches and seizure shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause. Probable cause means that they have been investigating you for some period of time, and they have had evidence that you are transporting drugs or human beings or whatever,
they have a case.
They have some probable cause to bring a charge against you, into which they can go into court and get a search warrant, supported by oath or affirmation of those particular people that were witnessing this crime being committed, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So they have to tell you right up front that they think that you're child trafficking and you have children in your garage where you're keeping them locked up, and therefore we have the right to search your garage and to seize the children that you have been trafficking. They can't come into your house and say, we're going to search your house because we think you're committing a crime, and we're going to find something in there that we can charge against you. Remember what the King of England was doing to the American or to the Patriots back when. They were violating every single one of these rights, and that's why these amendments were put on the books, because they didn't want this violation by government. Government has the power because we gave it to them. We gave them the power and the guns and the power to arrest and incarcerate people.
Well, and I think the other thing is that
protections against the abuse of that power, which they are doing every single day.
Well, and I think this is important to know this, and then everybody should carry a copy somewhere of deprivation of rights under the color of law with them all the time.
That's right, but I don't go under the color of law, because under the color of law doesn't affect me. Remember, we live in a republic. We don't live in the civil action jurisdiction. So we have to go back to that 100,000 times, that we live in a republic, and this Constitution affects us in the republic. In the civil action jurisdiction, they have made up that jurisdiction so they could use it to railroad people. That's all it is.
Okay.
Let's go back now. Let's go to the third, and this one's interesting.
Okay, we're gonna have to go through these fairly quickly now, because I've got next guest here.
Let's end here. We'll pick up the third tomorrow.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go to these in the next week. This is great. Well, thank you, John. I love all of this. It's so important to go through this, and I love the fact that that you are a teacher, a real teacher, not an MEA or NEA teacher, but a real teacher who taught the Constitution as well as history. And I always appreciate everything that you share with us. It's amazing. So. And thank you to all the comments on here, Charlotte and Lebzon, and let's see who else, and Curtis and John Hawks, and let's see who else is on here, just to name a few. But I appreciate everybody coming on and commenting and helping keeping us on the rails. We can be out here talking, but we really rely on some of your wisdom to help teach us more, because we don't know everything. We're just out here swinging away, trying to punch a hole in their lousy defenses as they try to take over the United States of America. So any last words here, John?
Just that we'll be Wednesday on Zoom. So if you can make it Wednesday on Zoom, you'll pick up some more stuff. We'll be talking about different things. Great place to be if you're involved, if you want to get involved in what we're doing.
Sounds like a plan. Well, I'll be right back in the next hour of Brandenburg News Network with Curtis Clark. Thanks for joining us. See you next week, John.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the third day of September 2024. And I'm going to welcome my next guest, Curtis Clark on. Hey, Curtis, how you doing?
Pretty good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. I'm glad we finally got you on. It's been a little bit of a struggle lately. So Curtis was supposed to be on last week, but of course my mom passed away last week. So we're making this thing work. So how are you today?
Actually, pretty good. Pretty good. I'm getting ready to go on tour across Michigan doing interviews. Everybody that's constitutional, that want to help fix the situation that we're in, because our country's being usurped right out from under us, and nobody seems to have any remedy, no solution to these issues and these problems. So that's one of my main focuses this month. I want to have it done by the end of the month, so that it's released. I want to release at least the first week of October. Okay.
Well, very, very cool. That sounds wonderful. Well, what do we want to talk about today? I'd like you to introduce yourself to everyone and tell everybody out there, who's Curtis Clark and what, where you started and then why you're here doing what you're doing to save the nation.
All right. First, I'd like to give my condolences.
Thank you.
I remember when my mother passed away, it was 2009. And it was unexpected. We weren't expecting it. She was only 64 years old, and it's a hard thing to go through. So I want to give my condolences for that, for your mom passing away. Anyway, I jumped into politics in 2020. Before that, I've been a 25-year Army veteran, serving my country, doing a lot of learning a lot of different military MOSs, strategic planning, just a lot of really cool stuff. I was stationed over at Fort Meade, Maryland for a number of years. And that's the home of the NSA and the cryptology school. And you learn all this stuff, covert operations and different things that's going on in the government. So it was an interesting history I've had in the military also with the Armed Forces Radio Television. I was a senior broadcast engineer for AF in Iraq, 2004, 2005, the second rotation in. And I got to work with some people with the State Department. And that's when I started learning about corruption within our government. I had been following it because I went in the military in '83 and it was really conservative. And then as soon as Clinton got in, he was downsizing the military. He was decimating our military, shutting our bases down, closing up our units. Fortunately, it provided a unique opportunity for me to, every time a unit was closed, I was able to go back and go to another school in the military and get more training. So 25 years in the military. Oh, I'm so thankful I joined the Army right out of high school. I really am. So anyway, in 2020, I just got sick of watching the corruption since mid 2000s, 2005 when I got back. I knew that something wasn't right. The Bush and their cronies in DC with Halliburton and all these other entities that was in the war, making all this money off the taxpayers, just huge gobs of money. And the more I learned, the more I kept paying attention to what's going on in government. And by the time, in 2008, I got so tired of the Republicans, I voted for, I'd say it, I voted for Obama, I voted Democrat. And then come 2012 is like, this is just not working. So I didn't vote for anybody 2012. And then when 2016 came along, there's Donald Trump. Wow. But he got so attacked. Oh my gosh. He just didn't have a chance. And being in the military, I knew about propaganda. And that's exactly what it was. Propaganda. Trying to brainwash the American people. And this brainwashing in our country has been going on for quite some time, but it really vamped up after John F. Kennedy was assassinated in '63. When Lyndon B. Johnson got in, they started putting in all kind of policies and this. Even the UN was doing things that were going against our Constitution, like the 1965 Small Arms Treaty. We're the last country that they're waiting to disarm. So I've been following more closely since I got out of Iraq. I retired after 25 years in 2006. And I decided, I'm going to enjoy the family life. I got married. We took in our grandchildren, raising them the last, 16 years. A couple more years to go. And so that's when in 2020, I saw all of the attacks and the propaganda and everything going on. It's like, I got to get in the government. I got to start learning what's going on and be a part of the solution, not just somebody who's a keyboard warrior just complaining all the time, because that's not getting us anywhere. So that's when I started Patriot Approved to vet candidates. The majority of the people that I vetted that I believed were constitutional, we Patriot Approved, was from the Republican Party. And there were some career politicians that had been in for 20 some years that did absolutely nothing that are in the Republican Party. It's, we got to get somebody else in there. The founding fathers didn't intend on our government to be controlled by parties.
Exactly.
They didn't want political parties back then. That wasn't part of the original intent. So that's when I started researching. Actually, a friend of mine at our local church, Stephen Young, he ran on the taxpayer party ticket, aka Constitution Party. And he said, this is a really good party. It's really, the platform is rock solid. It's actually, especially now, more conservative than the Republican Party platform.
Were you shocked at that move by the Republicans? I was a little shocked.
It's a uniparty. And when there's career politicians that's been in for 20 some years that have done absolutely nothing, and they're the ones they're trying to keep in power because they're controllable. And so I decided, I'm going to run against what they call him, Milk Toast Heisinger. That actually came from his old district. When I was doing Patriot Approved, I was talking to a lot of the patriots and county groups and different people, precinct delegates from his old congressional district. And I had a hard time finding anybody that would even support him. So by the, I'm not going to say the grace of God, and for his benefit, somehow he ended up being transferred down to the 4th Congressional District with the redistricting. And he just is like, it was meant for him to become the congressman in the 4th Congressional District. It's like almost like it was a setup. And that didn't sit well with me at all.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that we need to vote them all out. Vote everybody out right now, because anybody that's sitting in the seats right now, the incumbents, if they were going to change something, they would have. And I'm not seeing any move by anyone. Maybe Jim Runstad he's speaking out about it. So there's a few good ones in there, but overall, we need to vote every single person out. Jim
DeSana, he is fantastic. I like him as well.
Okay, I'll give him props too. I like him too. He's been on BNN.
He's awesome. So anyway, I saw all this infighting, and developing of factions within the Michigan GOP over this last year. It just sickened me. I didn't even try to become a precinct delegate with the Republican Party. Last 2 cycles. I don't want to be part of it. It's corrupt. And it's part of a uniparty that if you're going to continue to vote these career politicians in, just because they have an R next to their name and they're doing nothing, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. So right now, the biggest concern that I've got right now is the agencies that Gretchen Whitmer has appointed people to. One of the biggest concerns that I have is who she's the 3 committee panel for the MPSC. And they kind of like establish our energy infrastructure here in Michigan. There's something that's going to happen, and I'm just putting this out there. I can't prove it. I have a gut feeling. I've talked to a lot of people. They believe we're going to be in big trouble winter of 25-26 if they demolish the Campbell plant as scheduled. And this is coming from the MPSC. You know, they want their radical leftists that have been appointed. They're implementing the Green New Deal. All this is coming from the UN, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. They're in bed with the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization. And I'm just surprised. Why is nobody blowing the whistle more on the UN and the World Economic Forum? They're putting their headquarters right there in Detroit.
Well,
So anyway,
Whitmer was behind that. She signed that, and made that little deal right there, is to bring that into Detroit.
Yeah.
She had a lot of helpers, I'll give you that.
It's kind of a criminal cartel that's going on in Detroit, specifically Wayne County, Oakland County, and Macomb County. They have, those counties have county executives. Unlike the other counties where we're general law counties, and we have a county administrator that's appointed. These counties are not general law counties.
Can you explain the difference?
As a matter of fact, what's that?
Can you explain the difference?
Macomb and I believe it's Wayne. They took advantage of something that was put into the '63 Michigan Constitution, where nobody else has taken advantage of it because civics is not taught in school and nobody really knows. But they've taken advantage of it, and and those 3 counties is where they want to put the 4th Industrial Revolution for the World Economic Forum. That's why they have the county executives. It's they just did someone sent me a video called 2023 State of Macomb County, and that was put on with Mark Hackle. He's the county executive over there.
Can you put that in the private chat, and I'll throw that up, and we can show people what that is?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
So anyway, what they're implementing is this Green New Deal. They've got a lot of radical leftists that Gretchen has been appointing, and these are people that's not elected. They're appointed, and they love to do the parallel government, all the things that they're doing covertly. Because what's our main focus? It's the people we elect. We're not really focused on people that's in agencies or committees or these non-elected people. They've got us focused on the people that are elected. And I did the math, because the Save-the-Campbell, the Campbell plant in Ottawa County, that provides electricity to 1 million West Michigan customers. 1 million West Michigan customers. The owner of the Campbell plant, like a lot of our energy infrastructure here in Michigan, is Consumers Energy. Well, their parent company, ironically, the main shareholders are BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and JP Morgan Chase, and they are each other's largest shareholders.
Yeah, who would have guessed that they didn't have their finger in that pie, right? They're in everything.
Now, they've already, from what I understand, they already dismantled another coal plant over on the east side. And now in May of 25, they want to destroy the Campbell plant, which provides electricity to 1 million people.
That's about 1/10 of our population of the state.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. So if you do the analytics, out of 1 million people, figure 2-3 people living in a household, just say 500,000 families, or even 250,000. The average household spends $2,500 a year in electricity. So you multiply that by the amount of homes that's giving basically our energy is being outsourced. We need to stop outsourcing our energy infrastructure if we're going to be truly energy independent. I'll do an example. Allegan County, we've got a population of about 129,000 people. $2,500 per household for electricity. You figure 50,000 households. It's about right. You do the math, that's $125 million in revenue just from sales and electricity. Now, if we had a home rule county charter, get out from under this general law crap, if we vote in our own county charter, which we were supposed to do back in the 1700s, all the towns and counties had compacts and charters. Somewhere we lost this back in the early 1800s. We lost that that essence of self-governance. So if 50,000 families are paying $2,500 a year, and the profit is 125 million, if we had our energy production municipally owned through municipal cooperative, and all that money stayed in the county, can you imagine $125 million? What kind of a budget that would take care of for all of our municipal needs? There would be no reason for us to pay property taxes, especially on primary residences. South Dakota, they don't have property tax. They don't even have state tax, from what I heard. So there is a way that we can get rid of having to pay property tax, but they don't want us to get away from paying property tax because they're going to slowly increase the amount of taxes we pay every year, 5% every year. So by 2030, our taxes on our homes are going to go up, what, 25, 30, 35%? That's a lot of money.
I heard one that's just horrible, that they're thinking about taxing everyone 25% on the capital gain for the properties while they're residing in them.
Wow.
I don't even know. I don't even know how they could even go to that direction, but they want to go after 401ks as well as the property that you own. It's almost like what they did with inventory for businesses. They're treating it the same way. So these people are criminal. They are set against us, and it's to destroy we the people and weaken us.
Yeah. Yep, that it is. So one of the things that Trump wants to run on, one of the things that I noticed is no more outsourcing. If we're going to be energy independent, we need to own and control our own energy production. Because if we're giving all of our money to BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, JP Morgan Chase, they're going to use that money against us. And they're going to continue to take that money, and they're going to purchase up all of our land, continue buying up our businesses until one day we wake up and we're homeless. We don't own property anymore. It's going to be just like California. You have all these homeless people, and it's just a waiting game before, attrition, natural attrition.
Yeah, before we're it.
Yeah, they want to bring all these policies here in Michigan. So what I want to do is I want to bring light to a website. I'm working with, I'm on a committee, Save-the-Campbell committee. I'm working with Joe Parnell out of Ottawa County. And we'd like to get everybody to go to Save-the-Campbell.com. Save-the-Campbell.com. And I'm going to blow the whistle on the MPSC right here and now. This is, you're hearing it first here. Gretchen Whitmer is supposed to appoint nonpartisan people to this position. They're advertised as nonpartisan. Well, one of the people on that committee was a Democrat state representative. So how's that nonpartisan? Right there. The other one is Alessandro Correa. She went through a training program called Young Global Shapers. This is by the World Economic Forum. Just like there's another program called Young Global Leaders. They target in our colleges young people. They've been doing this since 2004. They started, through my research, they started this concept in 1996. They implemented it in 2004, where they bring all these Marxists in that are promoting, they go around and they scout for the right people that they can bring into these programs, young global leaders and young global shapers. and they are to infiltrate cabinets of government and business in the United States and around the world. And they are working, they're foreign agents working on behalf of the World Economic Forum. And they're bringing in these UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So that's what's going on right now, right there. So Alessandro Correa, she's a young global shaper. She's pushing the Green New Deal, which is part of the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So I want to hammer that in. The other people that are with the World Economic Forum that went through the program, Young Global Leaders, is Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, Pete Buttigieg, and including the Vice President of Pfizer. Where have we seen Pfizer come in?
Right.
It's all a big plan. It's the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab started this, working with the UN. All this is really ramped up after 1965, or 1965 and after. So I would recommend we go back and revisit all the legislation and everything that's been put in place, all of the like the education, Department of Education on federal level. Just like Trump did a Supreme Court case where abortion is a state's issue. It's not a federal issue. There's too many things that's in the federal government that's not federal issues. They're states issues, including education. I think, what was it, Carter that did that in 1979? I believe it was. We just need to get rid of a lot of this stuff we didn't give these powers to the federal government. If they're not in the U.S. Constitution, they shouldn't be there at the federal level. They should not. Also in 1965, the UN had passed the 1965 UN Small Arms Treaty, and that was to disarm us. I've got a lot of notes here, so I'm really trying to keep up with that. I have so many things here to talk about. Oh my gosh, I just don't know where to start. But anyway, Michigan, our state government, has become an oligarchy.
Absolutely. Do you have the names of all the families that are involved in the oligarchy? Because there's about 40 families. There's a tighter list of 22, but you can start picking them out pretty easily on the ones who are buying our elections.
Yeah. Yep. So what we have is a Marxist-controlled education system here in Michigan. It's really prevalent. I've noticed this if you ask an attorney or anybody that were attorneys or that are in law and government, because a lot of lawyers seem to get into government. And what they're teaching is, as far as local government, the county, is they're teaching one side of the coin. And I'm going to call that one side of the coin, looking through the perspective of looking through the left lens versus looking through the right lens, the other side of the coin. There's two sides of the coin. One is Dillon's rule, and the other is Cooley doctrine when it comes to counties. Right now, if you ask most attorneys, they're going to say, if you ask them, is the county a creature of the state? They're going to say yes. That's Marxist ideology. They don't want us to know about the Cooley doctrine, that we're supposed to be self-governing. Let's go back to 1774. Before the Declaration of Independence was created, which led us to the War of Independence, we were self-governing. We had charters and compacts in our cities, our towns, our counties. We had the county sheriff. That derived from the shire. Been around for 1,000 years in England. The shire, where the shiree, the sheriff, is located. That true essence of the county, the power that's in the county, has been usurped. I want to show you this book. I don't know if it's going to show backward, if you can read it.
No, it's
This-
right. The Theater of Constitutional Limitations by Tom. Move your fingers on the bottom a minute. By Thomas who? McIntyre Cooley. Okay.
Cooley, yes, Thomas Cooley.
All right.
He was
While you're talking,
justice.
I'm going to order it. It's quite often I'll order things when people point them out. So I'm going to order them in a minute.
Highly recommend everybody get this book.
Okay.
He teaches, shows us the other side of the coin that we were supposed to have, but unfortunately it was usurped from us. Look at these notes here real quick. Okay, what we have is Dillon's Rule versus the Cooley Doctrine. We're supposed to be self-governing in our counties. I want to read something right here I pulled up offline. I've been researching this for the last year and a half. I've got so much information, all of it. I got to get it organized. So I'm going to read this real quick. It'll only take a minute.
No worries.
To understand then what home rule can mean in our current moment, it would be useful first to glance back briefly at the historical development of the concept and the many divergent paths that home rule has taken in the states. The inherent right to local self-government was an animating motivation for the American Revolution. Alexis de Tocqueville, I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, he wrote a book, Democracy in America, that what he described as municipal liberty was the natural consequence of this founding era principle of the sovereignty of the people. Indeed, although there was much variation among the colonies and their local governments, there is evidence that local governments in, like, for example, New England, were understood to have constituted the states, not the other way around. The state and the state government began from the towns and the cities and developing their counties. The counties, they were around since 1600s in the United States and in the colonies. And that's where everybody governed from. And
it's all backwards now.
What's that?
It's all backwards. We have a top-down government telling the locals what to do rather than from the people on, up. It's completely flipped.
Yep. So the local governments, the counties, created the states because we elected our representatives, our delegations from the local community. That's where it all started. So the counties created the states. The states did not create the counties. They predate the states. I'm going to go to this next page. However, this is important. However, because federal constitutional silence left the balance between state and local legal authority to be determined within the states. States throughout the 1800s sought to assert control over local governance. Say it isn't so. We've had a deep state, and when we were talking about the deep state, just like we have today, people that want to get into government to sway or steer public policy in a certain direction. That's basically what it is. British never stopped. The oligarchs didn't stop just because of the War of Independence in 1776. They never quit. Look at the War of 1812. They're still working behind the scenes. There is still a deep state. The last thing they wanted was a constitutional republic where we had constitutions in, 3,142 counties? It's much easier to take over the governments of 50 states than 3,142 counties. So when the bankers and the oligarchs and all these rich people were around at the end of the 1700s, beginning of the 1800s, like I was telling you a few months ago about the railroads, wanting to put in the tracks across the United States, build these highways for travel. There's a Supreme Court justice called Dillon, who stated that the county is basically a creature of the state, and that the state had the rights, and that basically they could trample over local communities. Eminent domain. That's where eminent domain came from. And that's where Thomas Cooley comes in. Oh, I love this guy. Love this guy. He said, we have an inherent right to self-determination and local autonomy, which includes nullification at the local level, to guard ourselves against a tyrannical government. When the driving force in America at the time, like when they made the 10th Amendment, it doesn't say the all power that it wasn't given to the federal government was reserved to the states respectively, or we the people. It didn't say state government. It said we the people. And we the people in our cities and towns and counties had compacts and charters. It didn't say state government. So we need to get out of this box that we're stuck in, we've been programmed in, and open our minds and take ourselves back to 1774 and get a snapshot, an idea from that perspective in time. What is it that they went through, and what was the essence of self-governance at that time?
I think we would be shocked if we looked at what it used to be and really see how far we've fallen. I remember being one of my professors, and it was a law professor I had in college, saying that, 100 years ago, we would never have even, this was in the 80s, but he said 100 years ago, he said, we could never conceive of how much government we have. Now, you can't do one thing during any day, including being on the roads or anything else that doesn't have to do with the government and their self-enrichment scheme to those that play ball with them.
Yeah. Yep. As a matter of fact, there's a gentleman named Dave Jose.
Yeah, I'm
He's
familiar
been
with
doing a lot of constitutional work, and some of his work resulted in, according to the Zoom call that I attended last week with Dave Jose, Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch has latched on and is promoting the concept of sovereignty of the people. Because back then, the king, when we had the colonies before 1776, the King of England was the sovereign. He was the sovereign king. Well, if we are to be the sovereign instead of the king, if we're going to be self-governing, isn't it easiest to self-govern from our charters and our compacts at the local level where we live? That's the whole reason why in 1785, when they did the Northwest Ordinance, they specifically put in there the formation for townships and counties. The first thing they created was Wayne County. It's almost 50 years before the state of Michigan even existed. And that was for law and order, because law and order at that time, the most powerful territorial jurisdiction was the county for the sheriff and the courts. The World Economic Forum and these globalists, they want to get rid of the county, the local government. They want regions. If there's no trace of the original concept of self-governance and that structure, that framework, and it's not being taught in school. When's the last time we taught civics in school? I don't remember.
70s, isn't it? Did that go out in the 60s or the 70s?
I'm thinking everything started in 65, to tell you the truth. We're with Lyndon B. Johnson. That guy was bad news. He did a lot of bad stuff. I think he might have had something to do with the assassination of John F. Kennedy, to tell you the truth.
I think there was a lot of people that didn't like Kennedy that wanted him gone because he was going to tear down their little power structure.
Yep.
And expose them all. Probably very same way that they've treated, or they're going after President Trump.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just like was it back in the 50s, McCarthy? He knew something wasn't right. He knew there was communism and all this stuff developing, but he couldn't prove it.
Have you noticed how afraid, how many people are in office seem really afraid to speak out against the establishment? It's not just an unwillingness; they're afraid.
Yeah. one of the things that I like, what John Tater was talking about, former Congressman Kerry Benevolio had many discussions on this Norton versus Shelby County. Oh my gosh, that needs to be one of the biggest things that we're talking about right now. So anyway, the power belongs to the people. We are the sovereign. That's the only way we can do that is at the county level, the best way, township and county level with our home rule county charters. Let's see. The biggest driving force of having the constitutions was back before we had a constitution. We had many different factions. The different towns and counties and different colonies, they wanted everybody on the same sheet of music. So if you had a federal constitution, the law of the land, it establishes, that's where we establish uniformity across the land. Because like today, the last thing we want is different factions coming in, like Sharia law, for example, being implemented in one of the counties in Detroit. We can't have that. We're not in the same sheet of music. That's a total violation of the Constitution. That's why one of the main driving forces for the Constitution, so that all of the counties, the cities, all of where we live, the communities are on the same sheet of music. And I think we can do that if we have a group of people, constitutional people, like-minded people, and we create a constitutional county home rule charter for our counties and townships that work with the state and federal constitution. That's where we get our power back. Because like in the 10th Amendment, we only gave some of the power to the federal government. Actually, we only gave some of the power to the state government as well. Same concept. Most of our power is supposed to be at the local level, where we live, where we can control it. But they've usurped that essence of home rule, and now they're under Dillon's rule. So this whole thing we need to understand is the battle between Dillon's rule and the Cooley Doctrine. Is the county a creature of the state, or are we self-governing? One of the things that we don't have that would give us more power at the local level is, I've been hearing a lot of things about, for example, committee of safety, jural assemblies, tactical civics wanting county juries and assemblies, all this stuff that everybody's talking about that seems to be missing. Why is it not there? Why are we getting further and further behind and more controlled by an oligarch? Because all of this stuff is supposed to be in our charters. We were supposed to have charters in our counties. The whole reason they did the Northwest Ordinance is convert unorganized territory into organized territory, and they laid the framework for our townships and our counties. They didn't just invent this off the top of their head. They didn't just invent it. They're taking something that was already in place, commonly known to the people, and they said, okay, we're going to plan for the future. We're going to help them establish their townships and counties, because that's what was important for this unorganized territory, to make it organized. And it's amazing, all of the counties that were in place in the colonies and in the state of Michigan before our first constitution, it was 1837. And because of that split between the deep state pro-oligarchy global governance structure, the banks and all that, corporations back in the 1800s, they did everything they could to destroy that concept, where we would, in the future, when we have our counties established, they want to make sure that that didn't happen. Because if you can destroy local governance and our home rule at the local level, they win. That's one step closer to bringing in a global government, a one world government. And I mean, how is it any different back in the 1700s when Britain was the global government at that time? It's not a whole lot of difference. This
still function the same. It's the same playbook.
What was back then is the same today.
It's the same playbook. History repeats, and it's repeated over and over many times.
Yep. So anyway, getting back to the MPSC, Alessandro, one of the young global shapers pushing the Green New Deal, which is part of the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. If you want proof, go to LinkedIn. She's on LinkedIn. It'll stay right there. In 2014, she went through the Young Global Shapers program, which is part of the World Economic Forum. That's huge. Why is nobody talking about this? Why do we not have more conservatives on the MPSC? That's what I'd like to know. The other thing they're doing to destroy our energy independence is, for example, the Palisades nuclear facility. They shut it down. They decommissioned it. Holtec International is an international global corporation, even though they say they have their headquarters in, Miami, Florida. You could put a headquarters probably in any country in the world if you wanted to. Why are we turning over our critical nuclear energy infrastructure? Because that's what they want to do. They want to dominate the market in the United States, and under the nuclear power, the micro and a small modular nuclear reactors. I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but Bill Huizenga assisted with that transfer of ownership, and
that's kind of
got ties to Russia and Ukraine. They've got a facility in Kiev, Ukraine, where they house all of the nuclear material from Chernobyl, right out of Russia. And that's who we have taken over our nuclear infrastructure here in the United States, in specifically Michigan. I think this is dangerous. If we were to build here in West Michigan, or Michigan in general, these micro reactors, which they've been around since the 50s. 1953, they had nuclear powered submarines. It's a proven technology. I'm not really too hip on the larger facilities. Even the small reactors are too large, in my opinion. If we had them on a micro scale and we mass produced them, sold them to our counties through a county municipal cooperative, and we kept all of that money in our counties, why are we enriching these big corporations so they can buy our country up when we can keep this money in our counties, benefit us?
Well, to that point, when the United States started out, the states that were there were the size of counties rather than the size of states. So it's just grown so exponentially that we can't even the way that it's being managed right now is only going to lead to bigger government, more intervention, and more loss of rights.
Yep, that's right. And the other thing is why is nobody talking about calling out these Marxist professors that are leading this charge here in Michigan? Alessandro Carrera, she got her training from the local colleges over in Detroit.
Which ones did she go to?
Pardon?
Which ones did she go to?
I'd have to look at it. It was just too much stuff. I've been posting all this stuff on my Telegram channel, Patriot Approved, on Telegram, because Facebook, I've had 3 different accounts on Facebook and they shut them all down. So I've just given up on Facebook. I'm done with Facebook.
Yeah, I'm done with that one too.
Which really hurts. It really sucks because I had quite a following on Facebook. But Anyway, we need to get back to what life was like, and I'm just going to use 1774 because that's 250 years ago. In another 2 years, we're at the 250-year anniversary. And I've heard it said so many times that no government has lasted more than 250 years. We are really close to that right now. So 2026, I would like to see our government fixed, and with our charters in place, the way it was originally designed. Because as a general law counties, how's it working out for us?
Things aren't working out very well right now, I would say.
It's not working out. It's not. We're not self-governing. I hear so many people talking about we're supposed to have drill assemblies at the county level. We're supposed to have this. We're supposed to have that. A militia. There is none of that. None of that stuff exists because we don't have our county charter, our county constitution. We're not self-governing. The state did it for us. It's turned into an oligarchy. So, like in the Declaration of Independence, after a long train of abuses and usurpations, we have a right to alter or abolish government. Well, the big thing is we don't really need to alter or abolish government. We just need to finish what the founding fathers started. And when people talk about the founding fathers' documents, the only things they mention is the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. Well, there's two other documents that's equally as important because one doesn't exist without the previous one. The Constitution would not exist without not only the Declaration of Independence, but the Articles of Confederation and the Northwest Ordinance papers. Because if you look at our Michigan Constitution, it's derived from the Northwest Ordinance papers. A lot of our constitutions, the state constitutions, come from the Northwest Ordinance. People probably don't even know that. I don't even think if they had civics taught in school, I don't even know if they'd even want that taught because they don't want us to know.
Explain that one. It's the Northwest Ordinance papers, right?
Yeah. 1785.
Okay.
And that was establishing how our territories, unorganized territories, was going to be organized. And the most important thing that they were establishing was the townships and the counties. The townships were 6 miles by 6 miles, 36 lots. Number 16 was reserved for the schools. And when I read this book, it was written in 1895. It was the chronological history of Wayne County. And I read this single line. I haven't been able to find any evidence of it anywhere else, but it had stated, the federal government was prohibited from the township. What does that mean? Where's that? Where's more evidence of all of this? That's huge.
That's huge.
Federal government is prohibited from the township and the center of the township where they put our schools. So obviously they wanted our education system as far away from the federal government as possible. Period.
Which is a good idea because they've certainly screwed it up massively.
Yep. So anyway, that's all of this is why I decided I'm running for Congress. We need to be self-governing again. We need our county charters. We need to be energy independent. We need to quit feeding all of our money to these big corporations. That's just using it against us because they're all in bed with the World Economic Forum and the UN. This is what we have to get out there.
True story. Well, this is awesome. I'm going to post this on my Telegram channel for everyone to peruse that. It's at Brandenburg number 4MI. And I'll put that out there for everybody to be able to see. That's really interesting. I know you've been talking about this for a while, and I was kind of interested to hear what you had to say on this because, it's impossible for everybody to know everything. And as we go, we learn more as we go. So we have to kind of, work with each other and depend on each other for, learning more stuff every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I guess this is where I promote myself for Congress. I've got a website. It's clarkformichigan.com. clarkformichigan.com. I still need to update it.
Okay.
We're in a mess. This country's in a big mess. Our state's in a mess. And if we keep electing these career politicians that have done nothing. Hey, there it is.
There it
Nice.
is.
Ooh.
I usually can find it. It just takes me a minute sometimes. But there you go.
If we
Oh,
keep
very
electing
nice.
old people that do nothing, how are we going to expect anything different? The definition of insanity is you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It hasn't happened yet. Quit voting these career politicians in office. If they haven't done anything, replace them.
Vote them all out. I think they all need to be voted out. That's for a fact, and start over. Yeah. This goes back to the major parties that are out there. They think it's either one way or another way. Well, there's an awful lot of gray in between that. And if we stop thinking we only have the choices of what they select for us or allow us to vote for, we don't really have a choice because they tell us who our choices are and they've picked both of them.
Yeah. They select them for us.
They select them. It's a selection process.
I will be in Detroit September 6th. I'm going to be videotaping. I'll be doing some interviews there as well for this video that's coming up. I'm going to be at Souls to the Polls. It's put on. I'm so thankful to Pastor Lorenzo Sewell of 180 Church.
Oh, he's
And
wonderful.
Ramon Jackson. Pardon?
He's wonderful. I met him at Ben Carson's thing. What a great job he did at that Oakland County Republican, the Lincoln Day dinner. He was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very Christ-centered.
And I'm also going to be interviewing Ramon Jackson. He's the one that's doing a lot of this research on a lot of the qualified voter file is reflecting people in Michigan that have moved away. For example, take somebody who moved from Detroit 10 years ago. They went to another state, okay? But the qualified voter rolls in Detroit, where he used to live, still shows him as voting. Houston, there's a problem here.
Seriously.
If you moved away 10 years ago, why is it showing that you're still voting where you used to live? And I guess he's got he's been collecting affidavits. If we can get a call out to as many people as we can and target people that have moved in the last 5, 10, 15 years or so, and have them go back and check the qualified voter file where they used to live. Just check, see if it shows you're still voting. There's one at a time when the county was the record keepers. Because we have a clerk for a reason. We used to control and manage all of our elections right here in the townships and counties. When did the state of Michigan take it over? How did that happen?
When they decided to be pirates. It's piracy from the state of Michigan. They just came in and grabbed whatever they want. They really don't have any rules. They just kind of go off the rail. They're like wild animals out there, just tearing around our state, grabbing what they can.
And there is no legislation. There is no legislation that prohibits us from hand counting. What I found out is that when they got the counting machines in, when all that stuff started happening, the township clerks and the city clerks, they took it upon themselves, well, hey, we don't have to hand count anymore. The machines will do it for us. That's why we're not hand counting anymore. We should still be hand counting. We can still do, it's a proven fact that we're able to hand count and tally at the same time we run these paper ballots through the tabulator.
I think
now,
it's
if that
faster.
results in pardon?
I think it's actually faster. I mean, when you figure about frogging around for like 9 days, or how many millions of dollars we've put into making sure that these machines, which cannot be proven to be reliable, they're not certified, they're not accurate, and how many other breaches in the system has happened. There's no way that we can make this work. They've hacked it at the operating system level.
Yeah. Yep. And there's absolutely no reason why we would have counting boards for absentee ballots.
Right.
If there's the absentee ballots, if you live in a township, they should go back to that township, and then they count them on election day.
I think we should just get rid of the machines just based on the fiscal irresponsibility. What was it? When Whitmer signed, it was $25 million just by Whitmer signing that. That is an irresponsible fiscal move. Instead of running it lean and mean, and a lean mean machine here that actually works.
Our county commissioners are approving the budget to pay for them.
Yeah,
they should quit approving the budget. Stop paying for it.
Yeah, this is it. Just cut the budget. Well, this is fantastic, Curtis. I've got my next guests that are ready to come on. Do you have any last words that you want to tell everybody? We can have you on again because I find this really interesting.
Please check out the Save-the-Campbell.com. We have to do whatever it takes, even if it's an emergency injunction. Find a way to stop the closure of the Campbell plant, because hundreds of thousands of West Michigan lives are going to be in danger winter of 25-26. If you look at Daigle.com, I think it was 2015, they had posted they do a lot of censuses around the world, populations, things like that. And they said in 2025, the population of the United States is going to go down from 330 million to 99 million. And you put all these different pieces together, and without the Campbell plant, and what, we're going to be like Texas and rely on solar panels the following winter? That's absurd.
It's absurd.
Our energy grid is already at a critical level. And what are we going to do? Outsource all of our electric from other states coming in? That's going to make our electric bill go up.
Well, not only that, it's unrealistic.
It's unrealistic. It's ridiculous.
You can't build that kind of structure to save. And then once again, we're looking at decentralizing and being dependent on somebody else. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So but the question always is where's their money going to? Who's making money off of these large changes and these large construction projects and everything else? Someone is getting the payoff.
State Street, Vanguard.
And Morgan shareholders that are driving it too. The shareholders that are driving it. I would love to see everybody who's a shareholder in those companies just to say, yeah, we're just not going to do this anymore, and work together to do the right thing. But you know what? The problem with that is most of it's foreign ownership. So it's actually foreign ownership in the United States under the corporate veil. That's what's happening.
Our career politicians are working for these corporations, making profiting, because they view them as the shareholders. When are we the taxpayers? When are they going to start looking at us as the shareholders? America's ours. This is our country. We need a change. And that's why everybody in the 4th Congressional District, if you want some change, vote for me in November. Constitution Party, United US TPM.
U.S. taxpayers.
Vote for me and get some constitutional people in there that's going to do the research. It's going to work on behalf of the American people and everybody here in Michigan. We need some change, and I'm it.
Now you're running against Huizenga, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to throw it out here because I do believe that Huizenga is one of the oligarch families in the state of Michigan, or connected to them. So I would be open to change, and I would say vote them all out, every one of them, because anybody that's been running before, they're all involved in it. Well, thank you for coming on today, Curtis. I really appreciate it, and I'll have you back on again. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I really wish you well. And we'll be talking soon. Well, I'm going to go to the next hour, which is with my girl, Jalise Middleton, talking about the J6ers, and Suzanne Monk will be right back. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the third of September 2024. Welcome to our show today. I'm going to bring my girls on here real quick, and we're going to get right started with that. How you guys doing?
Good. Hey, Suzanne.
How are you guys doing?
Good. Nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. Welcome to our show today. It's nice to talk with you. So I'm going to let Jalise go ahead and take this thing away right now. I'm going to take a real quick break, and you guys carry on. I kind of love this, being able to just like lob the ball to you, Jalise. It gives me a minute to stand up. So,
That's
all right.
right.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Spike. It takes teamwork. So yeah.
That's right. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Thank you. Hey, Suzanne, how's it going?
Good. I'm trying to figure out how white I need to be. It's okay to be white. I'm just gonna say it. It's okay to be too white on the camera.
I was gonna say I'm pretty white, and you look a lot whiter than me.
It's the sunlight. I'm fighting with the sunlight, and I use the Trump flag to block the sunlight, so then I look a little blue. So
Yeah.
all right. I am blue. Jalise, I am blue because of what's happening to our country. I am blue because of what's happening to my friends. And obviously when you call me and say, do you want to, can I interview you? Can I talk to you at any point, on air, otherwise, in a tunnel, in a hole? Absolutely. Every single minute I can enjoy of you, I want to, because we know what the government is doing and what it has planned.
Exactly.
We
I
have to
couldn't
take
help
the
but go, could you on the air?
Yes, I would. I could.
Yeah. Well, you are one of the fighters for January 6th. A lot of people here may or may not know you. So I'm kind of going to do a little different than I normally do. Everyone else I've brought on, I've kind of given them a minute to tell who they are, but we move right into whatever's going on in their world. But you're a little bit different situation, and you're what I consider one of the J6 heroes. And the reason I do that, I tell people all the time, the January 6th defendants went to the Capitol that day simply to stand up for what was right. We didn't know we were going into a trap. We did not know our lives were going to be destroyed. And we did not know we were going to become part of American history. However, that made us more victims and then victors. But those that come alongside us seeing full well the full frontal assault of the American government on them, the threats of us to be silent and to sit down, shut up, and stay out of the way. Y'all saw all of that. And yet you come out swinging alongside us. And that makes you the real hero, because you saw the danger ahead and ran toward it. So with that said, I want you to, first and foremost, your viewers have to know what is going on with that hair. So tell the story.
Yeah. One of the reasons that I fight so hard and have fought so hard from the beginning is that I have been very close friends with the Proud Boys. Enrique Chario has been a good friend of mine for many years. And in fact, I have was knighted the den mother of the Proud Boys. You know, these are people that I've stood in the streets, attacked by radical leftists, you know, physically assaulted, facing down what we all know is the real fascism in this country that is trying to take over our constitutional republic and destroy our liberties. I've stood in battle with these guys, not wanted battle. We didn't desire to be in those confrontations, but that is the situation we have been put in our country by the powers that be, that have decided to stand down and use the radical left to destroy this country, which is exactly what they did on January 6th. And it's in complete collusion from the top to the bottom, this radical fascist leftism that has infected our nation. So these are folks, Enrique, you know, Ethan, Zach, Joe Biggs, these are people I've stood in the streets with. So, you know, when they got arrested very early on in January of 2021, Enrique had already been arrested. You know, I already had that sense that they are coming for the people I care about. And then it escalated so egregiously. it's sort of that band of brothers. I cannot leave my friends. I cannot leave my fellow warriors in enemy hands. They are prisoners of war to me. That's why when I made this flag behind me, when I designed the POW J6 flag and took the heat for repurposing, rightfully so, the image. That's why I did that, because that's actually where we're at. We are in a battle for our country, and these are people I've been in that battle with since 2016, 2017, and ongoing. So, you know, that's I was in the fight already a little bit, but to then, as you say, you know, plow forward against this Goliath, knowing full well what the government is capable of and what it intends to do. You know, I understand where people find that nerve-wracking. I find it more nerve-wracking what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I find it more nerve-wracking to think about what happens if we don't win this election, and we're not able to restore justice in this country, and we can't get back to that sense where the American people trust the FBI when they knock on your door, to where the American people, and somebody goes into a court of law, that they are convicted rightfully on the facts and on the evidence. When people feel that the government and the prison system is not being used as a political tool by a political party, but that's what everybody feels today. We're Venezuela in our legal system. So if that doesn't get fixed, we're all in danger. And to be fair, knowing all you guys puts me more in danger every day. So the more you get in the fight, the more you're in it to win it, because you have to be, because we're all on the line. Actually, all Americans are on the line in this issue.
You know, I make that point all the time to people is, listen, you know, because everyone wants to call all of us J6ers heroes. And the reality is, no, we're cats that got backed in a corner, and we have no choice but to come out fighting. Right. They left us no choice. And so, you know, when you look at it realistically, that kind of changes things, because I don't think the American people can really understand, you know, what it would feel like to be a January 6th defendant. But imagine going to church, thinking you're doing the right thing, going about your merry way, and you go to church because it's the right thing to do, and you trust your pastor, you trust your elders and your deacons, and you walk in, sit down, and all of a sudden they lock the doors behind you and put a gun to your head. And even though that's a little bit extreme, that's a lot of what happened that day. We trusted our government. We were patriotic people. We loved our country. We were willing to use our own money, our own time, our own sick time, take off work, put the kids with babysitters, or bring them with us to teach them about loving our country. And then we got attacked. Mm-hmm. And with that, it just comes with tons of circumstances that you never really can wrap your head around, unless you're a January 6th defendant or someone like you that have walked alongside us, a thing where your life is now destroyed. How are you going to feed your family? Do you go to the very government that just assaulted you to get unemployment? All these different things. You don't feel safe in your own home because the feds knocked down your front door and sent you off to jail. How many bugs did they plant in your house?
And most of you guys are financially required to provide yourself with an attorney that the government gives to you. So there continues to be this, you know, the government has its thumb all the way on the scales. And look, before we even get to January 6th, the federal conviction rate in court is 97%. That means if you walk into a federal courtroom, you have a 3% chance of walking back out of there innocent. That already demonstrates that our system is so extremely biased in favor of the government. But then you add utter ignoring of our little friend here, the Constitution, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th Amendment. You
realize that'll get you in prison right there. They've taken those into evidence out of our homes.
Yeah, correct. And they want to do that because they know they're going to violate the 4th Amendment. They know they're going to violate the 5th Amendment. They're not giving you guys their access to the evidence that they themselves have, what they're required to do. They're not letting you face and question your accusers. They're sending you some other random individual not involved in the altercation at all. So you never get to talk to the guy who's accusing you of whatever act. That's ubiquitous across all of these cases. It's not something that one or two defendants are experiencing. Every single January defendant is experiencing systemic lack of due process and denial.
How do you know that?
Well, I'm building a database of all 1,500 January 6th.
You know that. I know because you sat into my trial. How many trials have you sat in?
I've been probably in 7. I got to count, no, 9, because I got to count the ones I testified in. I've testified twice on behalf of January 6ers. I've been submitted to 7 cases. They've kept me out of 5. So they really don't like when I testify, but I've done that as well. And I have also, in the process with the Pardon Project, our first goal was to write this strategy guide and to get this out to the public, get this out to President Trump and to his surrogates, the people around him, so that these strategies can start to become the talking points that our conversations are built around. But that second mission was to build a database so that President Trump is going to have a complete resource of every single January 6th defendant. I get January 6ers who reach out to me all the time, Jalise, and they say, make sure I'm on the list. Put me on the list. How is Trump going to know I'm a J6er? This is why I'm building this database. That was one of the key features of the J6 Pardon Project, was to make sure that President Trump is handed all of that data, which everybody can understand. It's taking us months to build it. It would even take a team of data experts the president could hire with every, all of the powers financially that could be. It would still take them weeks, months to build this database. So we're going to put that in place. And we are building that based on, one, the DOJ's own list of January 6th cases. So if the DOJ has put you on their list, you are already on my list. Please, I want every January 6th to know that. Be reassured. If you have received January 6 charges, you are going to be included in the database. Feel free to reach out to me. And we have a notes section if there's stuff that is personal to you. For example, some folks have lost their business licensure, their pilot's license, whatever. We're adding those notes. So if there's some interesting little detail you'd like to add, reach out to me. We're also taking letters from every single January 6, or if you would like to write a letter to President Trump that will speak to why you would like a pardon, why you need clemency, and trust me, we're advocating for every single one of you to get that. We are collecting those letters and will ensure that they are delivered to President Trump and his team so that he can use those also as tools to proceed forward with what is going to be the largest pardoning process since the Civil War.
I love to hear that. As a January 6th defendant convicted on all 9 charges, my husband losing his pilot's license, us both losing our license to carry and all the training that we'd put into that, and our lives destroyed, our retirement gone, any opportunity to reacquire a way to retire. I'm disabled. During the stress of this time, it has knocked me completely down. So the likelihood of me going back into the workforce is slim to none. And yet I'm 54 years old. That, how much time do I really have to recuperate that? And so people like you fighting for us is a super big deal, because I don't think I'm special in that situation. I don't care if you're 24 or if you're 84. This drained everything you had in you. And it has knocked the wind completely out of your sails. I've been able to hold strong only by Jesus Christ, and I publicly talk about that all the time. I don't know if I would have still been a young pup where I had not met my Savior, if I would have had the endurance about me to survive this. And that's why I think us banding together is so very important, and you're doing that. But with all that hope, there's also, I guess, a downside to this. Will you share with the viewers, kind of to give the full picture of, although this is fantastic and we need it and we're excited about it, because it's probably the only hope we have of recovering our life to some degree, there's still a downfall. Would you share that with the viewers?
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that got me started on the pardoning project, because I was messaging back and forth over core links. Anybody who's in the game knows if you know, right? Through the prison messaging system. And he was talking about how, when President Trump gets elected, he's looking forward to be home, soon, maybe even in February. And I got that feeling in my gut. I got that feeling in my tummy that there's a possibility that that is easier said than done. I got that feeling. And I started to do the research and realized that this is actually a very complex process. And not only that, but the DOJ has put some pretty significant pitfalls in the way of this process already, all the way up to and including the U.S. pardon attorney, a woman by the name of Elizabeth Oyer, who is an outsider appointed by Merrick Garland in 2022 from Georgetown, from Harvard, someone who is making quote unquote big changes at the U.S. pardon attorney's office. You got to go see these woke videos they're making about diversity and whatever at the pardon attorney's office.
To that?
You just go to the U.S. pardon attorney's website. You just do your search, U.S. pardon attorney. .gov, and you can go. That's actually where my research started, and it started to get, that's where I got even more nervous. So there are a lot of pitfalls. One of them, and Jalise, you're going to be in that exact situation. One of the pitfalls the DOJ has set up by the way they have timed these cases is a great number of January 6th defendants are going to be in the middle of the appeals process when President Trump hits that inaugural stage and is sworn in. So what that means is if President Trump issues pardons in the traditional fashion, which means he issues them to the individual, and it's sort of you take it now or you don't, and or you leave it situation, there are a lot of individuals that will have to choose, as will you, between continuing your appeals or getting out of jail. Between getting justice, getting your real life back, the possibility that your case is exonerated in the appeals process, that it is rectified in that legal manner, your record becomes clean, you're not a convict. That is obviously the best situation for anyone facing any kind of conviction, to have that overturned legally and to be innocent by the court. That's the best system. So everyone is going to want to be able to complete appeals, but if you're sitting in a jail cell and you get that pardon the traditional way, you're going to have to make a really hard decision. So we have one of the key components of the strategy in this guide is to advise President Trump to use what is called a proclamation pardon, just like Jimmy Carter did with the draft dodgers in 1972. And if you go to the U.S. Pardon Attorney's Office, you too can get a pardon for being a draft dodger. If you're still a draft dodger running from the law, get in there and get that pardon. It's waiting for you, because a proclamation pardon is available in perpetuity when the individual applies for it. And it's based on a criteria. So if you meet those criteria, in this case, we're advising anyone who has received charges for January 6th, then you can file for that pardon and receive it at your time frame. But what that means is the president is going to have to commute all of the sentences. If he commutes your sentences, you all get to go home. You get to complete your appeals process, and then you get to hopefully get justice in the appeals courts and be exonerated. But if not, that pardon is waiting for you. And so this is the kind of carefully laid out strategy that we here at the Pardon Project put together to make sure that all of these little pitfalls, and there are many, all of these little pitfalls that the DOJ has set up, not only in the present, but for the future, are avoided, are dealt with, and we can provide, as I say, maximum clemency, maximum justice to as many, if not every single J6er.
That is absolutely phenomenal. It sounds like a lot of reading and research. I praise God that you're on my team, because I hate to read.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Especially legal documents. Oh my gosh. So
well, at least we go right down to writing the pardon language itself. And look, I want everybody to know you can read this book for free on the J6 Pardon Project website. There's a free PDF right there. Click the strategy guide link and you can download this for free. You can get yourself a print copy on Amazon. Just put in how to pardon the J6ers, $4.47, $4.47. I made it as inexpensive as humanly possible so that everybody can get a chance to get this. And if you have a J6er inside in the Bureau of Prison System, you can send this book from Amazon to them so that they can get a sense of the strategy and of the work we're doing to help them get justice.
And I am going to try to look this up. I don't know. Oh, and I'm not having much luck. Okay, take me J6 Pardon Project, right?
Yep, J6pardonproject.com.
I've never done this before, but I'm gonna try to pull this up because I think this is a really big deal. Let me come back over here and see if I can't share the screen. Here we go. There we go. Let's see. Am I sharing the screen by chance?
It's to your face.
Darn. Okay, then. Well, and it's saying it's sharing, so I don't think I'm gonna have much luck with that.
We tried.
We tried. I'm all about trying.
Yeah, what you'll find when you go over to the site, I made it really easy to remember, J6pardonproject.com. The tab right there, J6 Pardon Project Strategy Guide. Click on that. That is a free PDF download. Every single person in America can download, read it, and have it, share it out. Because the mission right now, Jalise, is this. We've all, over the last 6 to 8 months, we've all been talking about, is President Trump going to pardon the J6ers? If. Will he? He's promised over and over and over. We know he will.
That's right.
The conversation now has become, and it has been building over the last several months, not if, but how and who. And that's one of the things that we want to really build the conversation around, how he pardons the J6ers, because that helps us understand why we need to pardon the J6ers. And the reality is, people have asked me, do you advocate for all J6ers to be pardoned? And I have said repeatedly, yes. And they say, well, Suzanne, some of them did bad things that day. And I say, yes, it is not my job to litigate what happened on January 6th, nor is that what the Pardon Project is about. What the Pardon Project is about is rectifying what has happened since then. The attack, the lawfare on the American people since then. Yes, bad things happened on January 6th, but when you are denied due process.
Yes, that's the
no
deal.
Matter what you have done.
That's what protects the future of America right there.
Correct.
It no longer matters what occurred that day from a January 6th defendant. The fact that they're using that as an opportunity to use lawfare to change our Constitution is what has to be protected.
Well, and I'll give a perfect example. I call it the Ray Epps equation, okay? Raymond Epps, we've all seen him many, many times in all of the videos. We see him inciting people to go into the Capitol. We see him at every single breach point. Obviously, something much bigger than the one single 1752 charge that Raymond Epps received is going on with Mr. Ray Epps. However, no person who received the charge 1752 received a legitimate charge. Every single person charged with 1752 that day is being lied upon and denied due process. Why? 1752, knowingly remaining or entering a restricted area. Nobody was given the opportunity to know it was a restricted area. The signs were torn down at the very earliest part of the day. No announcements were made, despite officers lying and saying those announcements were made. The big voice was not ever used, even though we have this technology. People were invited in by welcoming officers through open doors. At no point did anyone have any idea they were knowingly entering or remaining in restricted areas. So that means every single person who got a 1752 charge was given that charge falsely and denied due process. Now, that doesn't mean that Ray Epps doesn't have some real charges due him, and I believe he does. But that's one of the things we have also provided for in this guide, is to make sure that the president not only has a way to make sure the J6ers can receive their pardon when they are ready legally, but also that he has 3 types of pardons. One, the amazing and historic pardon of innocence, which is something governors use all the time to expunge the criminal record of individuals and to assert the innocence. And we have asked President Trump to use that not only again, because he's used it for General Flynn, the traditional pardon, which prevents any future charges, a full and unconditional pardon, which prevents any future charges. But there's something called an absolute an unconditional pardon, which only pardons the charges listed in the pardon and will provide for a rectification of the lawfare. That wrongly used 1752 charge can go away for everybody, as it should. When they break the law, when the government uses the law wrong, it needs to be rectified. But that will allow any individual who receives that absolute and unconditional pardon to receive charges that are probably well due them and should in fact be issued. Once we have pardoned the J6ers and ended this witch hunt, there does need to be a real investigation onto who caused the epic and massive failure of security that day, on who operated on the American people there who were peacefully protesting, and what actually happened. And there are several individuals who need to go to jail for murder and worse.
That is absolutely right. And I'm going to touch on several topics there. So I don't know if you've ever researched that 1752, because after I was convicted with it, I wanted to go back and see, why has it not made it to Supreme Court like the 1512? Because it is over the top ridiculous. And it's the net large enough that if you go anywhere to see a governing official speak, say they go to an elementary school or they go to a local church, and you go into a protest or you yell something at them like, "You suck, get out," that 1752 now can come into effect, effectively destroying part of your First Amendment. Yeah. And when I discovered this, I'm like, how in the heck is this thing out there? And I really thought it was because of the Patriot Act, that I'm just deemed a terrorist and that's why they could do it. But as I dug into this thing has already hit the Supreme Court twice and held up. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how in the world it's held up.
And Jalise, it holds, one of the things that it holds is it holds the capacity to enhance that sentencing guideline significantly. And when we look at all of the charges that were weaponized against the January 6ers, obviously 1512, 1752, 5104, these charges specifically, 231, 111, these charges specifically, when you add malice, when you add an assault or property damage or any of these other things that they are fabricating in the courts, that sentence goes from 6 months to the potential for 5 years. And they're trying to make sure that they use charges that they can leverage to those large sentences, because what they're doing is threatening people with such egregious sentences for such minor acts that they're getting plea deal after plea deal. The majority of January 6ers are taking a plea, and I don't blame them, because when you look at that first document, that first set of charges, they might say, "Oh, well, we got a couple on you. What do you plea? What do you plea?" Right. You see that plea not guilty, that superseding indictment. Oh, those two words are super fun. That superseding indictment. We're hearing that with President Trump now with Jack Smith's case. That superseding indictment goes from 2 charges to 12.
Right. That's what they did with me and Mark. We started out with 6 charges. We ended up with 9. Now we're back down to 8, because I want to explain to the viewers, we're talking a foreign language to them on all these, numbers, 1512, 1752, 5103, 231, 111. It's because we have seen such a ridiculous pattern of the government using all the same charges on all J6ers. And they start out with the 5 misdemeanors that are charge stacking. It basically, if they feel like they can get you on a trespassing charge, they have 5 ways of calling it a trespassing charge, and they convict you on all 5. So right off the bat,
it is so systemic that as we are building the database, the data input questionnaire I put together is multiple choice on those charges. I've just listed the charges that they're going to use. It's not even that long of a little list. And you just click the ones that you've received. Every now and then you have somebody who will have received a charge like Dan Wilson just the other day, that is based on their own state, a situation in their state. Somebody, when they did a search, they might find, firearms or some other contraband in the state. So you'll see that state code get involved. But for the vast majority of individuals,
because they did an illegal raid. But let me clarify that.
Correct.
FBI doesn't have the right to go onto private property and raid.
nor do they have the
right.
nor do they have the right to supersede the state in prosecution of those crimes.
Exactly.
And when I sat and watched the confusion even of the government in talking, the judge asked the prosecution in Dan's case, they said, why is his home state not prosecuting this crime? And they said, well, they've deferred to us here at the federal level for these charges, because actually when the lawyers looked at it, they can calculate a higher rate. He would receive less back home if they were separate than he would here. By adding that in, they can take his sentence from 2 to 5, the 5 years they gave him.
Absolutely. But I want to so much help the viewers understand the plight of January 6th defendants. So you just got an illegal raid where the FBI come and busted down your door while you're sitting there praying and eating with your family. I mean, obviously I'm going to exaggerate, but that could have happened. We don't know. We've already had 2 miscarriages from the trauma. Okay. It happens. Yeah. So they come into your home illegally, and then they search your home without a search warrant, won't show you a search warrant. And even when they had a search warrant, it was only for your cell phone. It wasn't for your home. Correct. And then they find weapons in there. If you had a prior of, say, a felony 15 years ago, give state of Texas, for example. After 10 years in Texas, even though you're a felon, you can carry a gun again. You can own guns. Right. You can't carry it. You can't transport except to and from your home, but right. You can own the gun. Right. We have the castle laws still, so you can own a gun. Right. Now the FBI comes in, and because they don't like guns and they're trying to take all of our guns, they've now raided you. And even though you're innocent until proven guilty, in theory, that is not what it is. They take the gun saying you're a felon, you shouldn't have owned a gun because that is a federal law. And people will argue with me all day long saying, well, they broke federal law. It doesn't matter what the state says. Wrong. The states are over the federal government, not the other way around. Right. And so the federal government had no right in your home, no right to confiscate the guns. And now they're adding charges to the January 6th defendant if he had a prior felony for owning that gun, even though it's legal in his state. Yeah. So
even though they recognized and openly stated in court, guns were not present at January 6th. They were not relevant to January 6th. They played no role in January 6th. He didn't mention them in his Facebook posts about January 6th. However, they did mention several other things he mentioned. Considering himself a political prisoner in the weeks before his trial, increased his sentence. And I watched the judge sit there and tell us that it demonstrated a lack of remorse to refer to himself as a political prisoner. I had to actually get up and go to the bathroom at that point to prevent myself from yelling. He is a political prisoner.
And I want to point this out too. So in our federal court system, I hope y'all are starting to see the web they put us in. If you do not admit guilt because, I don't know, maybe you're innocent, like me and my husband, which I will now get used against me in sentencing for saying that, correct, even though I have video validating every ounce of my testimony in the courtroom. Correct. Because I state that, and because I am a, how were they wording it? A sympathizer to January 6th defendants. Mm-hmm. I now am going to serve more prison time for not being apologetic and remorseful.
Correct.
But I have no reason to be remorseful because I'm not guilty. But your guilt or innocence doesn't matter in the federal courtroom because even your evidence didn't matter. None of us understand what's happening behind the scenes.
We literally are watching the news right now talk about the election results from 2020 in Georgia, and clear evidence. We have seen again and again clear evidence that fraudulent activity did in fact occur in the 2020 election. However, if you state that as a January 6th defendant, they consider that a lack of remorse, and I've watched judges literally say that you are in denial, that you have a break with reality.
Yes, and want a psych eval for it. Yes, right. I've seen
exactly.
that too.
And want a psychiatric evaluation for you to continue to assert And they asked me about that actually on the stand when they pulled up my picture of Captain J6 with my sign that says Trump 24 or before. And they said, so you believe the election is stolen and needs to be overturned? And I said, well, I believe that there is clear evidence, as has been shown, that fraudulent activity occurred. That will need to be rectified at some point. If we rectify that in the ballot box, if that's the soonest we can do it, then that's what will happen. And that's the facts. That's the nature of our country. But that position, holding that logical, rational, constitutional position as a January 6er will, in fact, get you more time.
Yes, and I'm one who did that. The prosecutors, when they could not break my story because it was the truth, then they turned completely on my words. So what I tell people all the time is I was convicted on my words on Facebook because I was harsh before January 6th on a stolen election. I personally believe there was enough evidence of a stolen election. At the very least, it should have been investigated. And the very response I gave on January 6th proved a stolen election. So what I was only suspicious of January 6th, I'm now confident of. Correct. So when I was asked by the prosecution, do you believe the election was stolen? I clearly stated yes, because I am not going to lie on the witness stand. The jurors, you heard one of them gasp, like, well, that's it, you're guilty. So are you telling me because of my beliefs, I deserve to go to federal prison? If so, I know a whole lot of people that deserve to be in prison. I've heard people get into personal tiffs on Facebook and wish death on people. I've had people do it to me. If that's the case, you should be in prison with the death penalty for murder. And the scripture, by the way, will support that, because Jesus himself said that if you even thought evil on somebody, you have committed murder. So let's just go down the rabbit hole if you want to go there, and let's put us all in prison. The fact is, we have a First Amendment right for a reason. Right. And the reason being, we have a right to our opinion, we have a right to our thoughts, and we should still be respected for those rights.
Well, and Jalise, as you're stating, a great deal of that conviction and these sentences are not being based on the actions of January 6th. They are being based on your protected First Amendment speech between January 6, 2021 and your trial. They're using your speech as validation for conviction. And this is a banana republic, third world country. I'm not surprised the Venezuelan gangs are starting to take over clearly their country, because we're operating as their country. And so, this is why when we get to the point where the Department of Justice is such a department of injustice, the check and balance our founders gave us is presidential clemency. This is why we are so adamant that we need to win this election for this and a variety of other reasons. World War III is going to suck. I just don't want to participate. So let's not do it. Let's just not.
And that's exactly why the government's trying to silence us as they take it over. They're trying to bring us to a one world government. If any of you are doubting me, that just tells me you've never cracked the Bible, because it tells you this. Yeah. So we know that this is the agenda. Okay, the scriptures even confirm that.
COVID make that very clear. To see the exact same protocols and policies implemented in country after country after country with very little dissent clearly indicates that those policies were sourced from a centralized think tank. We know who that was, right? Yes. And so, it's not even a matter of philosophical thinking at this point. There's a clear and obvious centralized international group that wants to control the policies and philosophies of the globe. And
because absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
Right. And they want to do that on the issues of climate change. They want to do that on the issues of immigration. They want to do that on the issues of transgenderism. They want to do that on a variety of issues that even every human finds absolutely egregious, finds absolutely abhorrent. And yet here we are, we're having these things shoved down our throats. And so, Yeah, of course, all the folks, and this is why we see so many veterans who are J6ers. We see so many activists who are J6ers. We saw so many people who were politically active, because it is the night of the long knives style. They want to remove the people who can have those loud voices. But what I've seen is that they've actually created a whole new vast group of people who actually have seen the horrors and now have, you know, taken up the mantle, if you will, for the warriors that they've knocked down. And so ultimately, I think that you know, they are just like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. They're creating more and more brooms every time, you know, Biden, Mickey, and them break up the brooms. There's more of us, and the little shards turn into patriots.
You know, that's a good point. I want to speak on that for a minute. So first off, something I've noticed is, and it's kind of embarrassing as an American, and I would probably be one of them if it wasn't for me being a J6er, but our American people don't seem to know anything about world politics of what's going on. And yet I can get on a Twitter space, X or whatever you want to call it, and there are people all over the globe listening in on American politics. And when you really press them, hey, why? You know, I spoke to a European man that just absolutely knocked my socks off. And because he said, everybody's watching with bated breath for America and how you're going to respond, because all of us have already lost our battle. You're the last battle, and you're the only ones left with guns to fight. Now, I want that to sink into the American people, that all over the globe, they are relying on Americans. And he specifically mentioned Texas. He knew the name of our governor. He knew the name of our attorney general. That he knew people within the Texas Capitol. These people have paid attention to politics. And yet I can get out on the street and ask any given person who is running for president, and they would not be able to answer. That we have fell asleep, and it's disgusting and sickening, because you're literally being led to a slaughter, an absolute slaughter. And so, you know, that sickens my heart, because no matter where I go speaking, that's something people are not aware of, is that this very thing happening in America, with Palestine taking over this and BLM and Antifa, it's happened in every single country, and they have won. And the only way to defeat it is going to be to stand in unity. In unity. I don't know about other white people, but every white person I've come in contact with didn't have a problem with Black people, and still don't. But yet the government was telling us we did, and we bought the lie for, I don't know, maybe a year before all of a sudden we're like looking at each other like, wait a minute, I didn't have a beef with you. Why am I doing this? And then when it didn't work, then they went on and made it all about Antifa and patriots, and that caused a big old spark. And we all still see opposing sides, but now we realize they're paid opposition. And then it went on now to the Hamas and the Palestinian stuff, and they're paid agitators is all they are. And if we can just wrap our mind around, they're out there as a paid actor. They're peons that know nothing.
They're paid, and we have two problems. They're paid, and individuals are paid to stand down. Law enforcement, government agencies are paid to stand down. We see that in the Aurora, Colorado situation with the Venezuelan gangs. The mayor right there, literally downplaying this egregious gang-related violent insurrection. This is a real insurrection, right? We see it now also in Chicago as well. You know, we are standing down to crime. We are standing down to physical violence. And the First Amendment is very clear. The right peaceably to assemble. Everyone, you know, reads that and assumes that what that means is you have the right to show up if you are peaceful. And that's not what that means at all. What that means is that you have the right to assemble, and you cannot be assaulted. You have the right to do that peaceably. If you're not going around assaulting other people, then other people are not allowed to assault you. And the government has to. This is an instruction manual for the government. It's not an instruction manual for you or me. These are the rules for the government. The government has to protect your right to assemble peaceably. That means it is the government's job to make sure Antifa doesn't assault you while you're gathering. They stood down. They stood down in 2015. They stood down in 2016. They have stood down repeatedly over and over and over. And we see that again with this gang violence, with the illegal immigration cartel drug lords coming in and over the border. We see it again and again and again. Law enforcement, our system is standing down to these real criminals, to these invaders, and then they are being weaponized against the American citizens who would stand up against that obvious violation of just basic, American and human rights. We are the government, the federal government is supposed to protect that border. That's one of their very few enumerated powers. And, it's almost you had one job and they have failed to do that. They're openly failing to do that so that we can, so that they can decay that divide constitutional individual, citizens governing ourselves power and turn that into a state down, police state style government so they can control us. And that's what they're trying to do with letting the crime happen. That's why they've created this divide. It's funny because as we move forward, we see more and more those divides start. The real Americans, the American people, continue to reform and heal those wounds again and again. And we see that in this election with the huge support in the Black and Hispanic community for President Trump, and just the real unification. We see that with these Robert Kennedy voters. Welcome, welcome, Maha. We love you. We appreciate you. Please, please, please. Many of us have been touting those same issues of big government making us unhealthy for many, many years. So we're seeing those rifts and those divides the government has tried to create, reconnect and reemerge. And I think that January 6th is also one of those issues, and I've seen it many, many times. Once you open people's eyes to the due process that's being denied and the torture, inhumane torture that is going on legally and physically in our Bureau of Prisons, once their eyes are open enough that they cry, right? You got to get it past that desire to just look away because it's so horrific. The people come in full force, what can I do to help? How can I participate? They understand that we need to unite. And I've seen that on the left. I've seen that on the right. And so you asked me earlier in the show, why is my hair orange? And we're going to circle all the way back to that. I wear my hair correctional orange, and I dyed it this color the day my friends, the 5 Proud Boys, were sentenced. As long as they wear correctional orange, I wear correctional orange. And it gives me an opportunity wherever I go. When somebody gives me a compliment, oh, wow, I love your hair, it gives me an opportunity to say, well, thank you. This is why I wear it this color. I have friends who are doing 10, 15, 20 years for nonviolent activity on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol. They have been egregiously overcharged, and I stand in solidarity with them until they get justice. And I have told that to Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, people of every color, creed, and I get almost invariably the same response. Wow, good for you. Good for you. We all deserve equal justice under the law. This is an issue that pulls the Americans together really like no other issue. And we saw it with the lawfare with President Trump. We saw that huge outpouring of individuals who understand this broken legal system and what it can do to you and how it can treat you if you are not in its favor. And we came together. That mugshot pulled in so many supporters of President Trump. The same as we see this issue of January 6th and the need that everyone has to receive equal justice and equal due process. One person cannot get a $50 ticket because they vote Democrat, and that same person get that corollary person for the exact same action get 5 years because they're a Republican. That's not a viable system, and everybody sees that. So we come together on it. I've seen people from the middle and even the left come together on this issue. So we, the American people, have an opportunity to come together around what we know is right. We know protecting the Constitution is right. We know that equal justice under the law is right. We know that those family, that the parents have control of the kids, that we need families to raise our future generations, that the states and the local government need to have the powers of how we decide to regulate our lives, if we regulate them at all. And it needs to be our core sense of power in this country needs to be back to the individual, because we are a constitutional representative republic. We, the people, each individual one of us, wield the power that runs our and governs our lives. So
And that's why
we
they
need to
deem,
that.
yeah, that's why they deem the Constitution so dangerous.
Mhm.
And listen, I'm talking from personal experience here to the people. And I'll be honest, I still don't know the Constitution like I'm supposed to. I didn't know it at all before January 6th. I think that is sadly the story on most Americans. This is why this has happened. If you do not know your rights, then you do not uphold them. And it is not a right if it's not upheld.
Yeah.
They're there only if something pushes against it. So the very first problem I see with the American people and the belief system that has allowed this was that you believed that the federal government was over the states. They're not. The states are over the federal government. The states, that's why the abortion issue, people want to get all tiffy. I don't care which side you believe on.
Well,
you're going to have to account for that. That's not my problem.
It's very specifically enumerated powers. Here's the thing. Here are the things that the federal government actually can supersede the states on. The border. Okay. They have the authority enumerated to control that border. A post office, printing currency. Each state is not allowed to print their own currency. These are the few very specific enumerated things that the federal government has authority over. It does not have authority over what you put in your body. It does not have authority over what kind of medical treatment. It does not have authority over what kind of schooling your kids get. It does not have authority over whether or not you drink raw milk. It does not have authority over any of those things,
Right.
because of our good little friend, my favorite, the 10th Amendment. I love the 10th Amendment. Let me just read it. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That means everything that is not in this tiny little pamphlet that the federal government is allowed to do is state province, all of it. And that does include how we enforce laws, how we engage in, that's what we have, state gun laws. To be fair, the Second Amendment should actually be even more ubiquitous across the country. But that is in fact why there can be laws from state to state that affect how you can implement the Second Amendment, because the states have plenary authority. They have first authority on every single issue other than those very few enumerated powers the federal government has in the country.
That is absolutely right. And so anything dealing with you personally, not the state as a whole, the government is not supposed to have a hand in at all. Zero. Correct. Zero. So that's why I go back to the abortion thing. The abortion thing was wrong, being a federally, mandated free thing to do from the start, because it's none of their freaking business. Don't it just kill the government to hear that? It's none of your freaking business. It boiled back down to each individual state, which is where it's properly placed. But look at the lawfare, even in that it got held up for 50 years when it should have been less than a 5-minute decision that I have no right over that woman's body. I have no right over it because she lives in this state, and it's now the state's responsibility to figure it out.
Correct.
But they held it up for 50 years trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
When the Constitution clearly stated it. And now they're doing it with all the J6 stuff. What right did the government come to pound down my front door? I did absolutely
Let's start right here.
nothing.
Let's start with January 6th itself and the violation of the Constitution that Mike Pence oversaw and facilitated that day. The Constitution is very, very specific and clear. The states choose their electors. The states choose their electors for the process of electing president. The Congress cannot, it is specifically prohibited. Congress cannot choose the electors. This is why the process of challenging the electors is very, very common, very known. This is why you see in the videos, there's Mike Pence asking, do you have a senator? When Arizona challenged the electors, they asked, do you have a senator who's signed on? They did. Why would they ask that? Because it's a process, because it's a constitutional process to help make sure that the state is giving you the list, that the state is in agreement upon. This is a power each state has. So what happened on January 6th that day? Arizona issued the first challenge, of which there were at least 7 waiting to happen, which would have prevented the count from being certified that day. We would have taken it back to the states, and the states would have been able to make a decision on whether or not those results, those elector certifications, were accurate, and we would have come back to it. They had the first challenge of Arizona, as you know, and then magically, somehow, all hell broke loose, and they started shooting at innocent protesters in the face. They drew blood on the steps of the Capitol. They shot Ashley Babbitt. They beat Roseanne Boylan. They instigated the violence that caused them to stop the challenges, clear the chamber. And when they came back that night, Mike Pence oversaw a vote that allowed Congress to vote to ignore any other challenges, which means that the United States Congress unconstitutionally took power to decide the state electors of every single one of those states that wanted to issue challenges. That is unconstitutional. That in and of itself is a reason to have overturned this election, because it was unconstitutionally certified. And that is
I love that you touched on this, because I've never been able to explain this well. I knew what happened, but the only way I could ever explain to people is, why would we try to overthrow our own president? This was not a transfer of power like they said. That was a lie. And
we were there to ensure those challenges went forward.
That's
the
right.
riot created by the government, with the collusion of the radical left and many alphabet agencies, FBI, CIA, DOD, many alphabet agencies, the riot was caused to stop what we were there to do, which is ensure the certification, the challenges to the certification, and to ensure that that process could not legitimately continue. The real coup, the real insurrection, occurred both at the moment they started that riot, but the real crux of it came at about 8:39, 10 o'clock at the Capitol building, when they came back together and voted unconstitutionally to reject any future challenges and to certify the election with fraudulent results.
Exactly. I love that you touched on this, because I have people all the time. Why do you think they would do that? And that's what makes them skeptical. Why would a police officer, attack the people? And it was part of the plan. And I can't speak for everybody and their actions, but I can tell you a gross blanket right on the top. If your life is in danger, or even less, you're going to lose your job, because I'm watching all of y'all do it right now. Y'all are scared to even be seen speaking or donating to January 6th defendants, because you're scared of losing your job or your reputation. Right. Okay. These officers were in the same situation. You're being told to do this. You know it's wrong. Are you going to stand up and possibly get Arkansaded, or are you going to just play along and do your job? And I've watched everybody. I call them brown shirts now. I'm just doing my job. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so were the boxcar loaders in the Holocaust. I don't know what else to tell you. I know that's a mic drop moment, but it is the truth. And you just nailed it, because they had a reason for it. They needed that certification stopped, because they were questioning it. They were bringing it about. They were coming forward with fraud. Right. And people say there's been not one moment of fraud. There's been nothing seen. Trump's lost every case. That's a lie. He's won 32 lawsuits over his election being stolen from him.
Right.
But they covered up because you're still watching a news station being paid for by these tyrants taking over our country. All the news stations, all the newspapers, everything is owned by like, I don't know what, 6, 8 different companies that are all in collusion together.
Right. And share the same narrative and have pushed that same narrative. You know, it's not by chance that you see something as an ABC affiliate, a Fox affiliate, an NBC affiliate, even these local stations that actually does push that narrative all the way from the top down.
Yeah.
And this is what we get very little real news. And, it's funny, as we're researching, it's not funny, it's tragic. As we're researching each of these J6 cases, each individual has been slandered in their home city and their little local paper again and again and again. Just individuals who, did absolutely nothing. They were in the building 30 seconds. They were like, whoa, and walked back out. And all of a sudden, article after article in their local paper, in their community, really trying to not just prosecute these individuals, but demonize these individuals.
Annihilate us.
Yeah.
Absolutely annihilate. Me and my husband have been born again believers since 1999. We raised it written on our doorpost. Every time the church was open, we were in there. We have been to almost every church out in this community. Everybody, every single church knew of us. We had pastored them, prayed over them, worked with them. And then the minute the feds beat down my door, which they conveniently gathered at what they probably thought was the church we were attending, because we last any social media, we pastored out of that church. All part of the plan, because we're out in the middle of the country and our neighbors wasn't going to notice because we're that far out in the country. So they had to make a scene at our church parking lot. And then they come in and they write the narrative that we're cop beaters. Well, number one, the picture that they posted was of my hands that looked like it was on, like grabbing the jacket of one of the officers. But what the rest of the picture didn't show, if you would have played the video, was that he was holding my wrist and my hand was relaxed like this. But yet now I'm a cop beater. And the dumb part about it, the total idiocy of it, is you communities know your neighbor. You've talked with them. You've spent time with them. You know their character. You've watched them walking their kid to the bus stop and walking them back, and your kids play together. And then all of a sudden you buy that crap. Y'all are dumb.
Well, here, and now, Jalise, let me ask you a few questions because to help answer. That officer who is in that photograph with you, were you allowed to question him on the witness stand? Were you allowed to get testimony from him in court?
No, I would have loved to have been there for that, what they call a 302 from the FBI, where they gather it and then tell what he said. Imagine you have the opportunity to have an interview with someone. In the legal world, we call it a deposition.
Correct.
And both sides are there at a table and it's being mediated and questions are asked and you're able to ask your attorney to ask them this. That does not happen in any J6 case. So what they do is the FBI, who are the ones that's accusing you, gets to interview them and then just tell you what they said. And
I see. So the people trying to put you in jail get to interview your witness for you. So this part of the Constitution where you are clearly allowed, where does it say?
I believe that's 4.
To question someone, to be confronted with witnesses against him. To be confronted in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to be confronted with the witnesses against him. Were you confronted with the witnesses against you? No, they got to question your witness for you and then tell you what he said. Is that what you're
That's
doing?
absolutely
So
right. Which they did show up in the courtroom for, just to make sure all pictures are clear. They did show up in the courtroom and they were interviewed by the prosecutor and my defense attorney. However, the sad part about my case is the police officer that started the whole thing by going AWOL and shoving the barricades into us for absolutely no reason while we're in prayer. They claim it was to straighten out the police line, like somehow. But the fact is, when you looked at the aerial view, well, our barricades were straight. 5 feet away, they were bent. So why didn't they go down there to straighten them? That wasn't the case. And when you listen to the audio of him going, snatch them, snatch them, snatch them, grab them, push them, that kind of tells you he wasn't out to straighten a barricade. Otherwise, it'd be, excuse me.
Did you get to question this officer? Did you get to question this officer?
Never. And my own defense attorneys would not even put him on the stand. Well, he's a hostile witness. You don't know what he's going to say. Well, he's right, because they lie on the witness stand. Correct. 2 officers that did, on my case, that did come forward in my trial, both of them perjured themselves, and we could prove it frame by frame, walking through their own body cams. Mm-hmm. And yet the government still allowed it. And then what happens when they prove
the government find that relevant or irrelevant? No. That you can prove they perjured themselves? Was proven perjury considered relevant or irrelevant by your judge?
And that's what's so frustrating is I don't know how the law is supposed to be, but it seems to me like when it's blatantly obvious that you just perjured yourself, there should be some sort of consequence. But no, it just stayed in, and we just kept rolling forward, and it was counted to them as righteousness. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how else to put it other than a biblical word for it. It was counted to them as righteousness.
Well, and even when your attorney had made it a motion to say that, in fact, this is perjury, we bring evidence of perjury, we'd like to bring that to the judge.
No, they never said any of that. They left it hanging in the air like a mic drop. Yeah. If I just caught you in a lie, ha ha, and then we moved on. And
now let me ask you this question.
Wait. Yeah. The frustrating thing is then at the very, very end, when the prosecutors are telling the judge what they're asking for sentencing. Mm-hmm. They then accuse us of perjuring ourselves, yet they had not one shred of evidence of perjury.
Right.
But go ahead.
Right. So, and though you have plenty of evidence of perjury that is not allowed to be brought as evidence in your trial. Okay. So let me ask you this question. Obviously, it sounds like the situation you were in, you were being assaulted by this situation. There's this barricade coming at you, this aggressive officer. You are probably acting in a manner to protect yourself. Just try not to get hurt, right? Were you allowed to use the word self-defense in your defense?
So I was. My judge did allow it, but that's something else the American people need to know, that such a setup. Your judge has to give permission for you to use a self-defense claim. Mm-hmm. In other words, before the judge hears the evidence, before the judge sees the videos, and he's not supposed to expose himself to it ahead of time, mm-hmm. He has to decide whether your case is a self-defense case or not. And they have denied that opportunity for most all January 6th defendants. Now, me and Mark, that tells you, that really should speak volumes. Our case was so obvious self-defense that he did allow it in.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this third question about this body cam footage and some of the other footage that was.
I love how this is turned, by the way.
I know, girl. Right? We're flipping the tables. So the government obviously had a variety of video evidence that it had in its possession that your attorneys and your case could use in your exoneration. If it's anything like the many other J6 cases, I'm assuming they fought like tooth and nail to have to give you any of that, denied as much of that video footage as they could. And when they finally had to give you any of it, they dumped it in a big file in a huge document that is now all of these, maybe hundreds even of hours of footage that you have to watch in about a 24-hour period, and then decide whether or not that evidence is useful. Did that happen to you? Because it happened to so many others.
Yeah. So we did get that massive dump where it was just a hot mess, but we did get it a long time in advance. We did get plenty of time to go through it. However, my attorney did withhold most of that because it was highly classified. Why do you highly classify a body cam? The whole reason for wearing the body cam is so that you can get to the truth of the day, but it's highly classified. I can't use it to defend myself. They can only use it to publicly persecute me. And so what I point to on that is in the middle of that dump, my husband just randomly I don't even know why. It was God led. Started thumbing through stuff, and he found a video labeled, what was it labeled? Watermark video. And we're like, watermark video? He found it. And I really, when he was telling me about it, I'm like, this ain't nothing. Well, then I watched it. It is a perfect aerial view taken from an Antifa member up in the media tower, where they conveniently knew when exactly to focus on us, about 5 seconds before the attack started. And it showed everything we had been stating all along. It showed the police officers assaulting us. It showed us defending ourselves. It showed us leaving the scene as fast as our little legs would carry us, as soon as we could get out from their grip. And we're still convicted on all 9 charges. But it was a buried video that I don't believe they wanted us to find.
Right. Yeah, very much so. And then you brought up even the additional question: how does that video even exist? Who knew to film that video? And what I can say, Jalise, from having watched thousands of hours now, and I'm not David Summerall, I haven't watched tens of thousands of hours, but I'm up there. You get to see, especially when you see these overall crowd shots. I challenge anybody who has any real military training or any in the field combat experience to look at these situations and not see what is clearly a nearly militarized pattern of the smoke flares that were let off right at the perfect timing when the next breach would occur. The individuals who are labeled and marked with different colored hats being at the right area at the right time to make sure those things happen. The folks, like you said, able to film and able to be ready to capture these events throughout the day, and even down to the flags that were being to mark the different areas of the crowd. They used different types of Patriot flags to indicate where in the crowd the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, and many other targeted individuals who, yes, that day they sought out to target those individuals, attack them, entrap them, and put them into the J6 lawfare situation.
I fully agree with you, and I've seen it in my own videos. There, we called him Y Guy. He was seen in 3 different locations, just going why toward the police. Right? He's standing 5 to 6 feet away. He's not threatening them in any way, and yet the officer that shoved the barricades into me and my husband just before that reached as far as he could over the barricades to strike at that man. Now, I was sympathetic to this man all along because he joined me and my husband in our prayer. Now, I want to ask your viewers, if you see a couple praying, how bold are you? Do you walk up and just start joining in with your arms around them in prayer? This man did that, and I deemed him a beautiful spirit that was, loving on the Lord with us. Little did I know until all that body cam footage came out, he was a plant. He literally, right next to my husband, when they swung and tried to take him out for absolutely no reason, he had to pull his badge out and show it to the police line to keep them from attacking him too. What does that tell you? Like, I'm just speaking what's there, okay? I'm not making this stuff up.
Right.
I'm speaking what's there. He put his arms around me and my husband to signal them, take them out.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So, and that
happened again. It happened again and again with other defendants who have received the sort of bigger attention that you folks like, Stuart Rhodes, the Oath Keepers, obviously all the Proud Boys, but others who they have decided are, I guess, important people or whatever to receive this level of attention. They made a concerted effort to make sure that they could target individuals. They knew who a lot of folks were. Somebody knew, as we are clear to see in that evidence. And so, these are all facts that should have come out in court, should have been easily available and made available in court. They're not. And so ultimately, the only way we're going to get to a real understanding of what actually happened on January 6th We have to first stop the misinformation and the lies and the lawfare that is leaving on court record an absolute false impression of what happened that day, and frankly is destroying our judicial system all the way down to our judges are losing their souls. We have again and again on record judges who are clearly demonstrably partisan, demonstrably biased, and I'm going to say the word yes, demonstrably fascist in their implementation of the law. So in one way, J6 has revealed a lot of things about our system, but what it's revealed is a lot of decay, a lot of toxicity, a system that was broken long before it was weaponized against the January 6ers. And as I'm going through this pardon project, I get a chance, a blessing, I guess, if you will, to meet a lot of other political prisoners in this system, people who have been taken hostage by this weaponized DOJ that frankly was weaponized even under President Trump's own nose while he sat in office. So the President Trump we need to come back into office needs to be awake President Trump. He needs to be aware President Trump. And we, the American people, have to be responsible for that. And that's why it is so important to make sure that we in the January 6th community, but every American continues to speak the truth about the lawfare that's going on, continues to speak the truth about the crime and decay and corruption that is going on in our own cities, continue to speak the truth about the fascist and Marxist takeover in our school boards, in our city councils, these attacks against people's constitutional, legitimate human rights again and again. We have to speak up and stand up against them. It is so, so critical and important. We're in what they call a color revolution. And every other country that has experienced a color revolution, they lose. And we need to stand up and unite, and we need to unite on the principles of equal justice, fairness, constitutionalism, and those so important, just basic human and family values that built this country. And if we do that,
I got to touch real quick on what you said, because I think President Trump, was green around the collar, green around the ears in his first presidency, that he didn't understand the level of evil even himself.
Sure.
However, I fully believe that assassination attempt has woke him up to Jesus Christ.
I agree.
And I believe that discernment that comes from the Holy Spirit is about to rock this country. And
I agree 100%. And I think it has given all of, folks say how, Suzanne, so many times the situation seems dire, and, how do you get up every day and just, have hope? And I say to them, well, look, I don't think God turned Trump's head and missed by millimeters so that we could lose our country after that. That was clearly, anyone seeing that can see that was a miracle. And that it was only by an act of God that Trump's life was saved that day. And so God saved Trump's life for a reason. He's saved your life for a reason. And to be fair, I think he's put people in the situation where lives have been lost for a reason as well. We in the J6 community will continue to honor the lives lost that day and the lives lost since then as dare I say it, as martyrs to the cause of liberty, as people who lost their lives in the good fight for our constitutional freedoms and for being a self-operated government. It is critical that we take that back. And this is why it's critical that we, the people, recognize that we're the voice that Trump listens to. You always say, Trump has these advisors. He's a businessman. He knows what he's doing inside. We've all watched President Trump now for, a good, 8 years going on. He actually, one of the best things that Trump has been as a president is somebody who listens to the American people. We, the American people, have influenced his policy, rightfully so, multiple times, and we can lay down many, many examples. He listens. He listens to us. He hears that call. When he put the bump stock ban, for an example, and everyone freaked out, he heard that call. When he put the vape ban, he wanted to talk about banning vape flavors, and we in the MAGA community said, no, freedom. He heard that and changed his policy. He's done it again and again. So he's clearly capable of implementing what the people want. We, the people, need to not only advocate for J6 pardons, but we need to advocate for a strategic and thorough rectification of our justice system. This is what the strategy guide has. Your conversations, your words, your pressure can help that. That's why I'm advocating, asking everybody, go to the J6 Pardon Project website, j6pardonproject.com. Read the strategy guide. Share the info memes. I've made it really simple. Each of the 6 steps we're advocating has been put together in a meme. You can share that information. Just inform yourselves and inform that conversation. How is Trump going to pardon the J6ers? He's got to do it strategically. He's got to do it intelligently, and he's got to do it effectively. We need maximum clemency to get maximum justice. And every single individual can help by sharing the ideas of the pardoning, sharing the pardon project, obviously, but sharing those concepts, why the J6ers need pardons, why due process being denied needs to be rectified by the president. We say it over and over. As a people, we'll get it from President Trump. That's how I've seen it happen over and over again. When we, the people, speak those rightful demands of power, President Trump has been a very responsive president and will continue to be. So help me, help you, help us get justice back for this country by continuing to build that conversation, not just at President Trump, but at your friends, your families, your neighbors, because it's that cacophony that creates that public mandate to get maximum clemency.
And for all of you that are, you're scared to have those conversations because you don't feel like you're knowledgeable enough, even directing them to shows like this, where we have spoke personal experience and cold hard facts, where we're bringing it to the table. One thing I've kind of prided myself in is I know I look like an average everyday housewife, and it's because I'm an average everyday housewife. And it's not rocket science to look at me and tell that I am innocent. And not even from a scriptural level. Listen, I'm a saint according to scripture. I'll take it up a notch for that. But I'm innocent of these charges. Yeah. And I think it's easy for the people to look and hear my story and go, yeah, that adds up. Yeah. That adds up. Yeah. I haven't had a question ever thrown at me that I did not have an answer for. And I answer honestly, and not all of it's pretty. When I tell people my story, I always point to the dark side of the story. The dark side was my mouth on Facebook. But is that a crime? No. Is that punishable by a 10-year sentence?
It's an interesting historic fact. Al Capone, we always talk about, great criminals. Al Capone actually went to jail on what? Tax fraud ultimately was the charge he got. We ask ourselves, why? He obviously committed many, many crimes. Obviously, Al Capone has committed many, many, many violent crimes and selling of contraband and illegal drugs and prostitution, all sorts of things I'm sure he's involved in. Clearly and obviously, it would seem that it would be easy to arrest him on all of those things and put him to jail for the crimes he actually committed. Why didn't we do that? Well, because we did not have evidence that we could present in court in a manner that matched due process. We have to get Al Capone, murderer, drug dealer, gang lord, organized mobster. We have to get him on the charges that we can exhibit and operate due process on. If Al Capone in this country can for decades be given that deference of due process until we can find legitimate charges we can arrest him on, why would we expect anything less for every single individual who just went and stood at their Capitol and exercised the First Amendment? Whatever happened that day, if you stood there peacefully, if you didn't stand there peacefully, if you helped a police officer off the ground, if you clocked a police officer in the face, whatever you did that day, you deserve and must have due process in court to defend yourself. And if it was denied, whether you clocked that cop in the face or helped him up off his knee, if due process is denied in court, you are innocent until proven guilty in a legitimate court of law through due process. We also say that you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, in a legitimate court of law where due process is implemented. If due process is denied and that court is illegitimate, you are innocent. We must operate our system like that. So when they start to get you in those conversations out there in the world, Oh, well, there were violent J6ers. Oh, well, think people did bad things that day. They deserve to go to jail. If people did bad things that day, they do deserve to go to jail. I agree with you. They deserve to do that in a manner that can be proven through a legitimate due process in court, and that they have the opportunity to defend themselves as per our Constitution. If they have not received that, they're innocent, and I don't care what they did. To be fair, until Michael Byrd has stood in a court of law and faced the charges that he should for murdering Ashley Babbitt in cold blood that day, to be fair, by our system, he is innocent.
Wow. I'm going to leave it on that note. I want to thank you personally for the work you're doing on my behalf, because at times it feels like our only hope. So thank you for that. Thank you for the suffering. I know, reading through these cases, building personal relationships with people like me, and seeing the destruction of everything they were and stood for, and their personality change, and the pain that pours out. And you have stood alongside us time and time again. Listen, I've only got to deal with my pain and the pains that come through my hotline. You're dealing with every last one of us, 1,500 January 6th defendants. So I want to personally thank you on behalf of all of us. And with that, I am going to close this up in prayer, because we got a mighty God that is leading you. He's leading me, and he will redeem our blood. He will
before
redeem.
we do that, Jalise, let me just say thank you. And let me just say to every other January 6er out there, I will not stand down. I will continue to fight throughout the process. We are working very hard to make sure that day one of President Trump's term is a magical, wonderful day. But if it takes longer than that, I am there in the process every single day until you all come home. That is our slogan at the J6 Pardon Project, until they all come home. And sometimes I get so mad, I threaten I'm going to raise the dead so the dead ones can come home too, Jalise, because I get a little mad. But literally, if they are above ground, until they come home. So yes, you too. Yes, J6 are listening to this now. Yes, you too, until you all come home.
Thank you so much. Y'all be sure to go to J6 Pardon Project and check out what she's doing there and spread the word. That's all she's asking you to do. She hadn't asked for a dime, but I'm going to tell you, if you can throw a donation her way, she has done this out of her own pocket and by generous donors that have just decided to step in. She don't even pitch herself, and I'm telling you, she don't live high on the hog. So with that, leaving that on a Texas twang, let's close out in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together. Thank you for rising up your mighty warriors to stand together, that we would unite in unison before the enemy, that we would know who we are, that we are brothers and sisters in Christ, that we are mighty warriors, that we have been called for this day. We have been equipped for this day, that we have been called up for such a time as this, that each one of us knows our value and our purpose. We know our identity in Christ, and we can come up against these evildoers. Father, I pray for a humbling of their heart, that whether they turn to the left or to the right, that the enemy would be humbled at our feet, that we would not take no for an answer, that we would not grow weary, we won't grow faint, that we will be yoked with the mighty Savior, and that we will not turn back. All you have asked us to do is to stand firm in your name's sake. And Father, I'm doing it obediently. I'm calling for this nation to do it obediently. You say that if their people will bow before you and turn their eyes toward you and confess their sins, you are faithful and just to restore us. And I am calling on that mighty opportunity as we speak right now. Father, thank you for this nation. We are still proud Americans. We know that this is a holy land. It is sacred ground, that we've been called according to your purpose. And I pray that the American people will remember who they are, that you have commanded them not to walk in fear, that you have even held them accountable if they choose to walk in fear, that it is sin against you. And Father, on that, I thank you for all the opportunities you have given me, that you would trust me, you would trust each of these January 6th defendants to be your voice and to stand on truth. In your name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you guys so very much. Suzanne, thank you very much for what you do. Plan on coming back on the show because you really bring so much truth into this picture, and you bring it very clearly, knowing the Constitution. And I am just honored that you came on and gave us an expanded perspective of things from a constitutional level that I'm still not mature enough in it to do. And I'm just telling you, people, ignorance can land you right where
Well,
I'm at.
I'm gonna leave you on a couple of resources then. One, that's some of the stuff that we've shared on the J6 Pardon Project site about the history of pardons. Pardons 101, I call. There's a lot of good information there. But if you go to my website, presidentnutcracker.com, and I'll show you my little buddy, President Nutcracker, President Nutcracker. You can buy these little guys, this beautiful President Nutcracker, and of course my beautiful First Lady Nutcracker. These are but you can also get my Constitution course. I have a U.S. Constitution course. It is 6 hours. You can download it for $25. Watch them over and over and over. And how I teach the Constitution is very, very simply, we read it and we comprehend it. I'm not telling you, what Thomas Jefferson and everybody was doing in their back alleys. We're not talking about the historical context, et cetera, et cetera. We are using it as a manual, reading sentence by sentence, active reading, understanding what this sentence means, how that gives us power over our own government. It is a manual, handbook style reading and teaching of the U.S. Constitution. And you guys can get it $25 on presidentnutcracker.com. I did make that so that you can educate yourself in a way that doesn't get roped into, sometimes we get overwhelmed with all of the history and context. And we just need to, we need to read this like an IKEA manual on how to put furniture together. And sometimes it's equally complicated. But look, that hex key is freedom. Okay, that hex key is freedom, and it does fit in all of the holes. It does fit in all of every need we have. Freedom will fill. So
I love your heart for educating the public. Thank you for that. I'm actually going to go to that. I didn't know you had that website, and I'd forgotten you'd done these nutcrackers. So now, yeah, you've got me sparked. I'm gonna have to go check it out. Y'all go check it out too. And by all means, don't forget AmericanPatriotRelief.org. We're out there trying to keep families alive and floating and giving them a feel of solidarity from the American people. We're asking for donations. You may be saving the next wife's house that has a house full of children. We have done that approximately 6 times, and it's from donors like you. So y'all stay true to yourself, stay true to this country.
Well, let me thank Donna. I want to just say, Donna,
Yep.
Thank you for continuing to, make your platform available for Jalise and for this important issue of January 6th. So I thank you for having me on, and of course, your continued engagement and letting Jalise share her story and share the story of so many J6ers. So it is much appreciated. We need more Donnas in the world, just like
Yes,
we need more
we do.
Jalises and Suzanne.
So y'all do not forget about her. Go to Donna Brandenburg. Continue to follow her on Twitter, X, Rumble, wherever you like to follow her. Monday through Friday, she is right there. She has been committed, but not conceited. So I'll say that part. I'm learning her pitch. So y'all, thank you for your time, and God bless till tomorrow.